Hello! Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing very well. Welcome to a dev stream. I am Andrew, aka Atropos. Hopefully you can hear me well, and I am joined here today by Cody.
Hello.
And Kim.
Hi.
Kim, where's the energy? Step it up. Step it up.
He's saving it. He's saving it for the patch notes.
Excited.
Yeah. How's the volume for you all out there in viewer land? Are you hearing us all pretty well? Kim, Cody, give them a little bit of test.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hello.
Yep. Seems fine. Okay, good. Well, thank you all for joining. I'm really happy to have folks here to hang out with us and to learn a little bit about what we've been up to. We've been working really hard. There's been a lot of stuff going on, a lot of work in Foundry land, many things. And we're really excited to share what we've been up to and just kind of check in with all of you, answer questions that you have, sort of see how things are going and see what questions you have, what we can answer for you, just give you visibility into what we're doing.
Speaking of visibility, some people have noticed Andrew has a wider webcam now.
Did people call me out? Did people notice that? Yeah, I did.
People notice the guitar.
Oh yes, I did get it. I did get a different webcam. The guitar has always been there. Oh.
I also did. No one else has ever known. Then Andrew gets a new webcam. It's like, wait, you have a guitar there?
It has been there the whole time, but yeah. All right. Yeah, and the hair's getting longer once again. You know, as the days are getting shorter, so grows Andrew's hair, and yeah. Well, I think I was thinking we'd start with just a little bit of an overview of some of the stuff that's happening in the community overall, and just things that are happening sort of related to Foundry in general. And then we'll get into the update notes that are still sort of a draft. We'll go through all the cool stuff that's coming in V9 Dev 2. And then we'll take a break, do a couple giveaways, and then do a bunch of Q&A for any questions that you all have out in Twitch land. Stuff you'd like to ask us to learn more about.
If we get enough subscribers, do we get a guitar solo during the stream?
Oh, hell no. No, I am not prepared for that. Maybe someday.
Play Wonderwall!
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I could definitely play Wonderwall. That is not very difficult. All due respect to Oasis. Yeah, okay. So getting started just with a couple of announcements from Foundry community in general. So this stream is going to focus on V9 Dev 2. It is the final development milestone in V9, which means that after this point, we really are sort of done with adding and creating new features. What we are going to be focused on after this is addressing bugs and polishing up the features that we have to be a little bit more, more polished and more stable. Although I am really happy with how things are currently shaping up, and I feel really confident that V9 stable release is going to be a really good one. I'm feeling very good about it. Now I've just jinxed us, but I feel good about it. Other things that are happening. As many of you know, we released the Demon Queen Awakens playtest. Let me pull up the package page. Very fun. Many of you have, well, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say many. A number of you have checked out Demon Queen. We've seen your playtesting. We've seen your streamed games. We've seen you running the adventure. It's super cool to see. Thank you to everyone who has been running it, testing it out, providing feedback. We've got some really good feedback. It seems that folks doing the playtests are having a really good time with it, which I'm really happy to see. They're also pointing out some good issues that we're going to be tweaking and adjusting for the final Demon Queen Awakens release. Well, I don't know if I would say final, but like the sort of full official Demon Queen Awakens release that will be coming up later this year, hopefully before the end of the year. So just wanted to remind you all that Demon Queen Awakens is available. It's out on Patreon if you want to give it a shot. It's a lot of fun. It's a really fun adventure, and it will challenge you as a DM and your players to take on some really cool bosses and explore really dangerous and fun environments. So I hope you check it out. Other fun stuff that we are doing is that we're going to be at PAX Unplugged, which is really fun and exciting and probably a little bit ironic because we are a very much like a plugged in kind of deal with Foundry. We are a digital tool, but we are going to be at PAX Unplugged, which is a really great convention for all things tabletop. And not just are we going to be there, we're going to have a panel. And I say we, so it's going to be myself, Cody, and Matt from the team. And we're going to have a panel where we're going to be talking about how Foundry, VTT, and just virtual tabletops in general create amazing opportunities for content creators and storytellers, artists to all collaborate to create really unique storytelling experiences that are different than what has conventionally been available for tabletop games. So we're going to be showcasing some sort of cutting edge stuff that some creators are doing and ways that they're thinking about building content for Foundry, ways that we're thinking about building the platform to further support creators. So it's going to be a fun time. And so that will be at PAX Unplugged. The panel is going to be the Sunday the 12th. You can find us on the PAX Unplugged schedule. So
we'll have two creators joining us.
Yeah, we'll have two creators joining us. You may be familiar with Heliana's Guide to Monster Hunting, which is a hugely successful Kickstarter, which is going to have Foundry support built in when it releases. It already has it for some of their preview hunts. And then also Mad Cartographer, who is an exceptional Foundry creator in his own right, but also has a new project coming soon that is going to do some very cool things with Foundry. I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm hoping that he will be prepared to share some details at the panel. And not only will we be there, but we're gonna have some shirts, which is fun. We made a shirt design to celebrate PAX Unplugged and our attendance. So if you're at PAX Unplugged and if you're a Foundry fan, you should be sure to find us. We'll be posting details about how and when and where you can find us, but you'll want to find us so that you can get a PAX Unplugged shirt, which Kim is demoing a preview design of for us today. That is not the final design. We made some touch-ups, but we got a shirt. It kind of alludes to the olden days of grid paper-based map making. Incorporates our logo. It's fun. It's a nice one. So so stay tuned for that. And we printed a bunch of copies of the shirt for people who we run into at PAX. We may figure out a way to make it available for folks who are unable to attend, or possibly a more generic version of it that isn't specific to PAX Unplugged. We're figuring that out. So, if you're enthusiastic about us, let us know in chat what you'd want, what you'd be interested in. We will pay attention and see what your preferences are. We're still sort of figuring out a number of logistical details on the merch front. It's something that we want to do a little bit more of, but we want to do it in a good way and make sure that it's something that isn't too much of a distraction from us, like staying focused on the main stuff. But it is something that we're working on. Cody has been a real champion for that, and
that's really why I'm here.
It is not at all why you're here, but you can be our unofficial commander of merchandise.
I'm the person who most buys merchandise on the team, so it's fallen upon me to make it available.
Yeah. Let's see. So that was PAX. And I guess at PAX, we'll post more info near the beginning of December. But those of you who are going to be at PAX, in addition to the panel, I'm sure we'll plan some sort of like community meet and greet for sometime during the con. So you'll have a chance to hang out with us both at the panel as well as just sort of throughout the weekend. We'll let you know details on that as the time approaches. Okay, that was Demon Queen. That was PAX. I'm forgetting something.
We recently did the Extra Life live stream,
Oh, yeah?
where Matt and I joined the wonderful developers of the Pathfinder 2E system as, let's say, ran, and we played in a charity live stream. As people donate it for children in hospitals, we added extra buses, and I was thrown under the bus and had to re-roll if people donate it. It was a great event, and I died to a sentient fountain. And if that's not a great review of the system, I don't know what is. So I just wanted to thank everyone who attended that, watched that. The VOD is still up on Twitch and will be or already is on YouTube.
Good watch.
Nice.
Fun.
Nice, excellent. All right, so that was... Oh, and one other thing is that we will have a bit of a sale coming up on Foundry license keys near the end of November, sort of a Black Friday type thing. We did this last year. We're going to do it again this year. I won't say yet exactly what the sale's going to be, but I do think it's going to start kind of that week of Thanksgiving. So if you've been on the fence about picking up Foundry or thinking about maybe getting a gift for a friend who might enjoy it, getting a second copy for yourself if you want to run multiple servers or whatever, just giving you all a heads up that that will be happening towards the end of the month. If you want to save a little bit on a license of Foundry VTT, I hope you'll consider that. And thank you for the support. All right, I think that covers our announcements. Kim, Cody, anything that you wanted to announce that I have forgotten about? No, I think we're good.
I think so.
Okay,
That's
cool.
good.
Well, let's get into the content for today, which is talking about all of the awesome work that we have been doing on version 9. So version 9 being the next major version of Foundry VTT. It is... As you may know, our main focus for version 9 was two big features. One was revamping the lighting system to be more performant and more beautiful, and the other was adding card support for supporting decks and hands of cards in Foundry. So we focused quite a bit on cards for the last two releases, and that's been pretty stable, actually. There's some devs in the community already making some amazing stuff. A big shout out to Zeal for his in-progress work on Monarch, which is a very beautiful looking UI for cards. I am excited to see that continue to be developed, as well as everything else that the community ends up making with cards in Foundry. This version ended up sort of swinging back towards focusing a bit more on lighting, as we had a number of sort of follow-up opportunities from all of the prototyping that we did in V9 Prototype 1 with the new lighting system. And so there's some big lighting improvements in this particular version that I'm very excited to share. And in addition to that, we managed to build a couple of all new features that were able to get squeezed in as part of V9 development. So we'll have some new stuff that we can show as well. Very exciting. In terms of giving you all context about where this fits into the overall sort of process of development, this is the end of the development phase for V9. So we're basically done building new features aside from just polish and bug fixing. And so, really from here, it's going to be about getting help testing and following up quickly on any bug reports or feedback that you all have as users that will help us get to a stable release. So everything that we're going to be focused on for the next month is all about just following up quickly on bug reports, making it more stable, making it work better. We're going to have a couple of releases during that time that will be called testing releases to just fix bugs and enable you all to continue testing. So do be aware, this is not yet stable, so that means there will be some bugs, there will be some things that don't yet work flawlessly, there will be some things we need to continue polishing. As such, we don't necessarily recommend that you use it for your live games. if you make that choice, you should do it knowing that this is not yet a stable release. There will be some problems that you'll encounter. We make no assurances whatsoever about module compatibility at this stage. So if you do help us to test V9, please consider doing it in a very module light environment. Please back up your data before testing V9 in case anything goes wrong. We want you to be able to go back to your nice, safe V8 data without any problems. So just be safe. If you want to help us test V9, it's going to be super great. I think it's in a great place. I think if you run a game that doesn't use a lot of modules, I think it's in a good place to try running a game in it, although that isn't our official recommendation.
Try out, like booting up your system in it and clicking around in a new world. Maybe run a one-shot in it. The feature testing system is the right time for general users to try it out. On their, on your 2-year-old, game that you've been running, but in little test instances, give us some feedback. We can still make changes at this point.
Yeah, don't use it for a game that would be really awful if something went wrong with your data. Don't take that kind of risk. But unless you've backed up first. But yeah, anyways, those disclaimers aside, the software is in a really good place, I think, for V9. We've been using it a lot. We feel good about it. We're excited to get testing feedback from you all. So without further ado, let's jump into what we've actually got new for you in V9. So I'm going to go over the draft notes. The final notes will be posted tomorrow. So I guess I didn't mention that, is that this will be out tomorrow. V9 Dev 2, this release will be available tomorrow morning Eastern time for any of you who want to try it. So let's go ahead and dive into what is included. There are 3 main things that we focused on, plus a just bunch of small features in V9 Dev 2. The big first thing is lighting and vision accuracy and efficiency. So big theme of V9, the adaptive lighting system. We've got this new lighting that looks beautiful. It's very... it's amazing looking, and we had a whole new algorithm for computing the vision polygons that are used to generate it that we added in V9 Prototype 1. Well, now we have an even new algorithm that is even better than that one in a number of ways. It is very, very accurate. It's very, very fast. It's a work that I'm super proud of, and I can't wait to show you some details of that. So that was a big theme of what we did in V9 Dev 2. Another big theme, we worked on audio-video AV chat improvements. We'll get into those in a bit, but Kim did great work on improving the user experience around some aspects of AV integration. And then thirdly, a big thing that we've added is the first phase of keybinding support. So what that means is that we've developed a system that allows for users to rebind the keyboard layout that they use for various Foundry commands. So whether it's moving your token, toggling your character sheet, cycling through tokens with Tab, highlighting tokens with Alt, whatever keyboard commands are used to configure Foundry, we have an underlying system for keybinding that is, for the time being, what we'd call API only, meaning it's the underlying framework for it. What we still need to do, and we'll be following up to do in a near future release, is to add an interface for users to actually visually bind all of their keys. We do expect that interface will be present in time for V9 stable, so this isn't a long ways away. We just weren't able to do the UI part in time for V9 Dev 2. But yeah, we'll talk a lot about keybinds when we get to that section. Yeah, so that's kind of the overview. So I think we'll go ahead and dig into the nitty-gritty details and start showcasing some of those big features. And then once we do that, after we do that, we'll go sort of blow by blow any of the remaining notes that we want to touch on. Cody, Kim, anything you want to jump in with before I start talking about lighting?
Do you ever intend to not rework lighting every other release, or is it just going to get more and more efficient until it's faster than the speed of light?
I hope that it will be now stable for a while, but I will say this. I think the visual and auditory tools that Foundry has, for me, is like the thing that our software does that really differentiates itself from any other product that you can use for this type of game. Like, you could not have a tavern that looks this beautiful, or so I claim. You can't have a tavern that looks this beautiful in any other VTT. And I think that that's because, well, maybe Tailspire. Tailspire is very beautiful, but that's a different sort of kettle of fish. The lighting engine is essential to that, and I think like making sure that the visual presentation of the software, the way it sounds, the way it looks, the way it feels, I think that's sort of like what I really view as sort of our hallmark. And so if there's things that need to change or improve or get focused on, I'm like always going to kind of want to focus on that stuff, because I just think it's sort of so essential to, to what we build. But yeah, anyways, I don't know.
Thank you for giving a very serious answer to what was a jest.
Well, it's a good question. It has been an area of the software that has had lots of iterations on it, and I think each iteration has definitely made it better than it was before, but I don't think we've plateaued yet, so we'll see. All right, so let's talk a little bit about lighting. So the algorithm that was previously launched in V9 was one that improved upon the V8 and prior algorithm by dramatically improving accuracy. So the V8 algorithm had some issues where the reason it was fast was it approximated the way that lighting should be calculated. So the new algorithm, and I'm going to reorient my scene here a little bit so that I can do some sort of DevTools stuff. I'm going to drag this over here. I'm going to do sort of a Uh-oh. I should have done this ahead of time. Bear with me while I make the view a little bit better for demoing some of this stuff.
If you shrink it even more, then the hotbar.
Oh yeah, I can show that. We'll show it again later, but like the more responsive hotbar, yeah, that's a new feature for sure. That's very nice. So let me show an example of what I'm talking about when I mentioned that we really focused on the new lighting polygon generation. So there's a new class in V9 P1. We added radial sweep polygon. We now have a new class which is called Clockwise Sweep Polygon. And Clockwise Sweep Polygon is responsible for doing this, basically. It is responsible for a given origin, for a given type of polygon, figuring out what are the boundaries of what that origin can see or can emanate to in the case of light, can hear in the case of audio. And it has to consider all of the walls of the scene. It has to consider all of the attributes of those walls. Is it an open door? Is it a one-way wall? It needs to consider all of these things in order to generate the correct polygon. And there were all kinds of problems in V8 and before. I'm sure you've run into some of them rarely, where like the way that light looks just doesn't quite exactly match the way that the walls should behave. Maybe it's that you're very far away from some terrain walls down here in the corner of the map. I'm going to turn off. I'll give an unrestricted vision distance here. Maybe you're very far away from this house, at the bottom of the map, and so the exact square that you've traced out with the walls for this roof, it's not precisely rendered by the polygon. Well, all of this is sort of perfectly accurate now in terms of exactly computing the exact pixel perfect polygon that you should have from any given origin location. It's really precise, it's really accurate, and most importantly, it's really fast. It is not only faster than the prior quad tree based approach, it is faster than the V1, the prototype 1 approach. This is by far the fastest solution that we've ever had for this type of problem. And what it means is that when your token is sort of animating across the screen and rendering vision updates in real time, it is just extremely, extremely smooth. Really high frame rate, really smooth animation. It just is very, it's buttery because the polygon is able to be computed so fast. Now I can show on a small scene what that kind of looks like in real time. I'll turn on some like live debugging. You don't want to do this really, because so this is, let me say, this is gonna look a little choppy, and the reason it looks a little choppy is not because the polygon is slow, it's because drawing the visualization of how the polygon is computed, that part is not very optimized. So when I draw, so I'll turn this on, and then you'll see when I move, you'll see this, and you're gonna see it stutter. It's not smooth anymore, and the reason it's not smooth anymore, it's just the visualization that's the slow piece here. But you'll still get the idea that what this is doing is every time it recomputes the polygon, it's sort of regenerating this in real time. And these calculations need to be extremely fast and extremely accurate so that as the token is animating over the scene, it it does it smoothly. And I know it's stuttering on the screen. I promise it's just the visualization. But this gives you an idea, the visualization gives you an idea of the type of calculations that it's doing under the hood in order to come up with this correct answer as you're moving around. So a lot of work went into creating this, and I'm going to show some specific examples of how and why it works well here in just a minute. But I do specifically, and here I'll prove that it's still smooth when I turn off the visualization again. It really is just the debugging that's pretty slow. Yeah, I really owe thanks to Kwok, who's a member of our community, who recommended some methods to explore for coming up with this new algorithm approach. So his help was really useful in getting this going and getting us on the right track of generating these really efficiently. So a little bit of like performance comparison that I can show. So I can do this for a number of different scenes, but for example, if we do... So I'm going to generate 10,000 polygons for this scene for each of the original quad tree, the V9 P1 radial sweep, and the new V9 Dev 2 clockwise sweep. So the quad tree finished all 10,000 polygons in a little over 9 seconds. The radial sweep from V9 prototype 1 finished in about a little less than 5, and the clockwise sweep did the whole thing in 2.4. So compared to, it's more than twice as fast what we did in V9 prototype 1, and it's almost close to 4 times as fast as the polygon generation in V8. So it's a really, really enormous improvement, and it continues to scale really well for large scenes. So let's switch to, for example, this gemstone mine, which is like a 10,000 pixel, 1,000 wall scene. And I'm going to use this one as a good example of what I would consider sort of a large scene. It's sort of a cavern, and so the walls, there's just many walls everywhere. But yeah, there's 1,000 walls in this scene. The polygon in this scene, you can tell from the visualization that it's got to do a lot of work. So it's got to consider a huge amount of data in order to come up with the pixel perfect area of effect. But the new algorithm is able to do that work exceptionally fast. So for example, on this very large scene, I'll do a benchmark comparison. I'll just do 1,000 iterations for this one because it's such a large scene. I don't want the benchmark to take too long. But the quad tree did the whole 1,000 in 5.2 seconds. The radial sweep, which is actually in this scene going to be slower than the quad tree because it doesn't approximate, it generates an exact solution. The radial sweep was 13 seconds, but the clockwise sweep is only 3.4 seconds. So what you should take from that is the new clockwise sweep has better speed than the quad tree, but it is pixel perfect. It has the accuracy of the radial sweep. So it is really a best of both worlds situation where it is exactly accurate and it's faster. And that's very hard to achieve, and it's just because it's really such a good approach to the algorithm that is able to do that. So let me show a little bit of... Oh, and thank you, Kailania, so much for the sub gift. That's really generous of you. Let me show you all a little bit of like some of the cool stuff that is able to be done here. You can see here with these 1,000 walls, if we're generating a completely unrestricted polygon where this polygon could reach any, it could theoretically reach any location of this scene, we have to include all 1,000 of these walls in the computation. One of the things that the new Polygon does, which is extremely impressive, is it's super efficient at restricting that polygon to smaller use cases. So for example, suppose this token has a limited radius of vision, or we're generating this polygon for a light source, which only has a limited radius. If I apply a limited radius to the polygon computation, it is lightning fast, and you'll see from the visualization that it has been able to eliminate all of the data from the scene except that which is strictly necessary for the generation of this polygon. So if I were to rerun the benchmarking, for example, of the 3 algorithms with a limited radius, you'll see an even bigger difference in the performance that we get. So the quad tree is going to be pretty similar, but the other algorithms are going to be a lot faster in relative terms. So in this case, the quad tree still took 5 seconds. That's what it was before. Unlimited radius, limited radius, doesn't matter. And just to emphasize, that quad tree, that's what you all are using right now in V8. So right now, if it's a limited radius, if it's an unlimited radius, doesn't matter. Either way, it's taking you around 5 seconds. Our new clockwise sweep did that in 154 milliseconds for all 1,000 iterations. That's 0.15 milliseconds per polygon, which is absolutely nuts in terms of the order of magnitude of performance difference. And what that means is that if you have anything that has a limited radius, like a light source, which is very common, you all have lots of light sources in your maps. Whenever you have a light source like this, the computation of the polygon for this limited radius light source is like a tenth of a millisecond each time it computes the polygon. The speed of this is really unbelievable. And so you can have loads of lights in your scene, and those lights, they all have limited radii, and so their polygons for those limited radius light sources are immensely fast to compute. And that applies to, to cases where they're moving or animating. It applies to token-based light sources as well, things like that. So I showed you how clever the limited radius case is. So that's this one. Oops, that was a benchmark. I didn't want to run the benchmark again. I wanted to show you a little bit about the limited angle case. So I showed you, what it looks like with a limited radius. Let me go with a larger radius as an example here. So in addition to the limited radius, we can also limit the angle of the polygon and also have some additional efficiency gains there. So if you have a limited angle of lighting, or you have a limited angle of vision, when we compute the angle of that limited polygon, you see that we've also eliminated a lot of data that is unnecessary outside of the angle of effect. This results in a big performance increase whenever you're using limited angles, where previously it used to be that limiting the angle of your polygon actually decreased your performance. Because it's more computation. There's more checks that need to happen. And so it used to be that using a limited angle was actually a little bit slower than one that was not limited. But now, if we compare the performance of our benchmark with the limited angle case, the performance gain holds where the clockwise sweep is incredibly fast compared to the quad tree, which is only a little bit faster than the unlimited case. So anyways, those are some benchmarks, and this is on a scene that has 1,000 walls. This is a very large scene, and it's one that is like a pretty up there case of what you might possibly do in Foundry. But I do want to show a demo of one that is kind of beyond the pale of extremity, as sort of an extreme case that will it's not going to look great, so don't expect miracles. But here's a scene that is enlarged beyond so it uses a very large texture, and then the scene size is around 25,000 pixels in dimension, and it has 10,000 walls. So I'm going to switch over to this one. It's going to take a minute to actually set the scene up because there's actually like so much data in this scene. It's just slow to actually load it the first time. So what it's doing right now is it's doing the initialization of the scene, which is, for a scene that's this crazy, there's room to optimize this for sure. But the initialization of the scene is, it's slow. So this is something that hopefully we can improve on the future. But this is like 10,000 walls in a scene and around 300 light sources, which is oh gosh. Did it just die? I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm streaming. It just gave me like a black screen flash. Well, that's disappointing. CPU is tired. I don't know. Let me try again. Let's try again. Live demos. To be fair, this scene is intended to be the one that just totally breaks things. So, we'll see. We'll see if I have achieved that goal. It worked fine as a demo before the stream, but now
that's how it always goes.
Now that we're live on Twitch, I think that my GPU is doing more work with streaming and everything and whatnot too. So we'll see if it pulls through. Otherwise, I may have to reset this world.
Too late. I'm already typing a Reddit post saying how it's crashing all my scenes.
We made some of these scenes deliberately to be like, these scenes are like impossible to use because we wanted to see how much ground we closed on this. Oh yeah, it's not really liking this, but let's give it another minute.
Do you have a smaller step in between?
There it went. Okay, we're in. So as you can see, the process of actually loading that scene took way too long. That was like close to a minute. Like, not good, but that's something we can hopefully improve. But once we're in this scene has, I can show our new support diagnostic tool. This scene is 24,000 pixels square. It has about 10,000 walls, 300 light sources. So it's chunky. Really beyond what anyone should actually be doing in Foundry. But you see all of these light sources, they're animating just fine. They look good. They're all doing like a smoke cloud animation and they look nice. There's no frame rate stutter. On the map itself, I'm getting 86 frames right now per second on this map. It's going to go down a little bit when I control a token because it's got to start bringing vision into the perspective. But if I control this token, I'm still getting 73, 74 frames per second. And the polygon generation on this scene, which previously would have been completely unplayable literally unplayable is now at least playable. I can move a token around. You'll see a little bit of stutter. You'll see the fog update, but this is 10,000 walls and 25,000 pixels. So this is like beyond what would ever be considered a sort of reasonable scene to have. And it works. It works. It is playable. And so, you know, it's not buttery smooth, but it works. And I think I view that as a huge victory. So hope you all do as well.
When someone inevitably tries to run their entire campaign in a single map in Foundry, please do not complain if it takes a little bit to go.
Please don't do that. I mean, we don't, just because it can, we don't recommend doing 25,000 pixel scenes with 10,000 walls. That's not, really, you should almost certainly be using more than one scene for this. Your party will never be able to explore this whole thing in a single game session. So, you know, consider splitting it up into multiple smaller scenes. But for those of you who really insist on pushing the envelope, the boundaries of where that envelope have just gotten a lot bigger, which is pretty cool.
People are asking how these were made in Walled. I believe all of these were generated with Dungeon Draft, and then they were so large, Nath had to hack the importer to support it. And then he manually added some lights after the fact. Can you show the walls for the scene, Natro?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Here you go. This is what our algorithm is computing when we generate the polygon. It's got a lot of work to do. But you can see, for example, how efficient it is if I limit the radius of effect. We get a much tighter polygon with many fewer points involved, and it, you know, suddenly you can see again without it just being, you know, blinding green. So yeah, there's a little bit of look into the gory guts of the algorithm that we've been working on here.
There is a further one called Suffering Cavern with over 38,000 walls.
It didn't work for me. It worked for Nath. I think he has a bit of a beefier GPU than I do, but it didn't work for me. That was a bridge too far.
When testing on 08, it took 45 seconds for him to move a token 6 squares in Suffering Cavern. On the latest lighting engine, it was only like 5 seconds. Only.
Here's another big map with lots of walls. It's sort of a maze. I think this is one of Spell Arena's maps. This is a nice one for sort of demoing the wall, the polygon. It's very smooth, handles the maze super well. Yeah, it's just, it feels really great, and it's going to feel good to you and your players when you get your hands on this too. It's going to feel like a total sort of generational step. Let's see here. I'm trying to think if there's anything else about the polygon itself that I need to emphasize. I don't think so. So let's go back to just kind of close.
Add the intersection points automatically.
Oh, now? Yes, thank you. That is a good point. So one of the things this new algorithm does that is better than both V8 and the initial sets of V9 releases is it has built-in handling for wall intersections. So one of the things that is problematic in V8 and V9, but for different reasons, is if you were to, make walls like this where you have two walls in an X shape. The V8 algorithm got this wrong because it would sometimes approximate this and lose a bit of fidelity of like the triangle part of the X. The V9 algorithm, at least to this point, was even worse, where because there wasn't an actual vertex here, it would end up sort of it would end up jumping. So like in V9, without an actual vertex here, it would be rendered as if there was a wall like that, because it would jump from one vertex to the next thinking that they were connected when in fact they weren't. So what previously we needed to tell people in the early stages of V9 is that if you want to have a really precise lighting calculation, you need to actually include every relevant vertex. So you would need this to be sort of like 4 walls instead of 2, which from a data perspective is maybe a better way to store the data, but it's a more painful way to actually create your walls. So this was a problem before, but it is thankfully not a problem now. And you'll notice that both of these cases are handled correctly, regardless of whether there's an actual vertex there in the center of the X or not. So both the left and the right are achieving the correct answer, regardless of whether you put specifically, like you manually put a point in the center or you didn't. So this scene sort of shows some of the ways that can show up, where you might have, say, like wall intersections in like a T, it handles the T correctly. You might have wall intersections in X shapes, it handles those correctly. You might have complex intersections of terrain walls, which it gets right. You might have a sort of asterisk shape where multiple walls share a single common point of intersection. It's getting that right as well. So we've got a lot of test cases that we went through, more than just these 4, but we've got a lot of test cases that have verified that we are correctly handling those intersections, and all of the performance metrics that I showed you are ones that have that feature included. So it's not costing us much in the way of performance. So it's very exciting stuff.
It probably is why the initialization of our massive scenes are taking a bit longer, though.
Yeah. For those of you who are technically inclined in the audience, there's an operation in there that's kind of currently clumsily brute forcing some of that, and it's sort of n squared. That we don't want that. We're gonna make that better, but at least for this version, that algorithm is n squared, and that can be improved upon. All right. So I think that is what I have for lighting. I will just take a moment though, and for those of you who are tuning in to the dev stream who maybe haven't been following along as much with V9 in general, I do want to just sort of showcase a little bit of what the lighting system is capable of, including these new changes. And then we'll move on to the next topic. So this is not new in V9 Dev 2, but just to give you a little look at, some of the amazing things you can build with the V9 lighting engine. We have many new options for light sources that look really beautiful. So coloration in particular is handled in a different way now, where it is using a shader that is called adaptive luminance that creates a sort of hybrid blend of additive and multiplicative lighting. That is just far more beautiful than what was possible before. So if I compare this to what was possible before, which would have been using what we would call here as legacy coloration. The legacy coloration is much more diluted and sort of washed out a little bit. You can tell how it kind of washes out some of the detail of the token. The newer, and I'll adjust the intensity so that they're sort of more comparable. But the newer adaptive luminance, when it highlights a token, it accentuates and it multiplies onto the token while adding enough luminosity that it has the sort of appearance of an additive light with the elegance of a multiplicative blend. So it looks just way better. It has a really beautiful aesthetic, and you can see how it plays nicely with the token as the light kind of plays around, and it looks really amazing in terms of different colors, sort of. Oops, let me save that. In terms of like accenting aspects of the token and everything beneath it, the new lighting engine, it really handles things both in a very performant as well as a very beautiful way. And so I think, that's just a sort of sneak preview, but there's so much more you can do with it. There's all kinds of different coloration techniques that can be applied to create different unique lighting effects. You have all kinds of advanced sliders that can be applied. So in terms of adjusting the intensity of coloration, in terms of adjusting the luminosity, the brightness of the light, or the darkness. So the luminosity slider now adjusts on a continuous scale, brightness versus darkness, if it's a darkness source. Making it gradual illumination for just much more elegant, sort of soft, blended edges. This is a really beautiful effect that is maybe more natural. We view the non-gradual illumination as maybe, if you care more about the gameplay mechanics of like exactly what is the bright radius and exactly what is the dim radius, non-gradual illumination is a little bit better for like telling that apart. But gradual illumination, if you just care about the aesthetics, gradual illumination is a much more beautiful light source. And so, you know, depending on what you're going for, whether it's more for decoration or for mechanical purpose, you could make that choice. We have sliders for saturation. So if you want to oversaturate or undersaturate colors, I can like increase the saturation of all colors within the light radius. I can decrease the saturation to have like a very grayscale effect. So, you know, this area kind of turns everything in it to monochrome or to grayscale. You can adjust the contrast of the light to either be more high contrast or low contrast within the area of effect. And you can also accentuate or the amount of shadows within the area if you want something that sort of brings out all the dark tones within an area. So you can really create a really unique light source that has exactly the mix of features that you want. And all of those sliders interact with, say, the animations that are available. So, you know, with any animation, I can adjust the saturation. With any animation, I can adjust the contrast. So they all sort of interact with each other, and you can create a completely unique aesthetic for your light using those tools. I see someone asking about the classic RGB blend. I can show a little demo of that. And then I think we got to move on. I'll spend all day on lighting if you guys don't stop me. So you better stop me.
All right, you get 3 more minutes.
Yeah, I don't think I'll need that much. I'll do 20 dim, 10 bright with gradual illumination for the RGB demo. So we'll do 255 red for this one. I need somewhere with a little bit of space. I guess there's enough space here. We'll do a blue guy, a green guy, and we can do a blue guy down here. So the blending is really good. We get a really great sort of rainbow blend with white in the center, as you'd expect, yellow, cyan, magenta as part of the blend. Blends really smoothly. It's really pretty. So yeah, so it's a beautiful, beautiful lighting engine, as you can tell, and this is all new in V9, and not just the aesthetics of it, but the performance of it with the polygons that I showed earlier today. So really exciting stuff. Hope you're all really pumped to use these tools in your own game. All right, that's it for my bit. Let's talk about AV chat improvements. Kim, do you want to give us an overview of the work that you did for AV?
Sure. Yeah. The patch notes do sum it up pretty well. There are a number of small bits and pieces that never really worked properly, and that we never got around to really sorting out. So this was the time to do that. And the main thing that was holding us back there was that each client's setting was not visible to the other clients. So whenever you change your in-game settings, other clients don't typically know about that because it's not broadcast to them. So if you were to disable your microphone or disable your video, the other clients wouldn't know that you'd chosen to disable your video. They'd just see a black screen because you'd no longer be broadcasting video. But now we we actually inform other clients of these sort of changes, so we can be smarter about how we display all of that information. And it works pretty well in the testing. It's quite robust. And in terms of robustness, actually, we've added some extra things around the whole package to allow that the normal audio and visual, the normal AV stuff to work a lot more robustly. So we added like a retry mechanism to help you deal with transient network failures and errors, so it will reconnect you without any work on your behalf if there's some strange error, or there's, it's like all the browsers do it differently. We were having some strange issues with Firefox, and that should be resolved without action on your part, and it should just work, hopefully.
Yeah, and those improvements, some of them, are designed specifically for the peer-to-peer approach that Foundry provides by default in mind. But they will also work for other backends, like if you're using Jitsi or a different AV backend. The centralized tracking of sort of user muted versus hidden, or the various sort of states of like, is the user speaking. Jitsi, for example, provides some of that data as part of their API, but not all chat backends do. So this sort of standardizes that in a way that's efficient for all backends and makes it a little bit easier for different AV solutions that are integrated into Foundry to have a sort of parity in their experience.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. All of the information is available as user activity now, so the same as cursors. If you as a module need to get a hold of that information, you can. You can just hook into the user activity and get that info if you need it. Just checking that Beckett had a question about the retry. I'm pretty sure it's in AV Master.
That's something we can follow up with you about, Beckett, in terms of like whether that retry should be applied to all client implementations or whether that should be sort of a simple peer specific retry mechanism. That's something we could discuss. I think. Sorry, Kim, you were looking into it.
Yeah, it is part of AV Master, but we're in testing, so grab a hold of the build, and if it's doing something really stupid, just let us know.
Yeah, that's exactly the right time for this sort of feedback. So we are entering the testing phase where we invite everyone to, try out what we've made, try and see if it breaks, try and break it if you want. Give us some feedback to work on to continue making it more stable and more polished as we get towards release.
So our next stream will have everyone connect to a Foundry instance, right?
Everyone, yeah, all 500 of you will try and get you all into a single server.
Yeah.
Oh man, that would be an adventure. It would be fun to see how many we could get in until the software would absolutely die, but I suspect it would probably be. I suspect we could probably get to 100 before it would die, but after that, I bet we'd be in some real trouble.
I'm legally obligated to clarify that was a joke.
Okay. Sorry.
Said,
I took you a little too seriously there, Cody.
I have heard of some people running West Marches games with over 130 players and 12 GMs, and Foundry without issue. Well, I mean, there were issues, right?
Let's not say without issues. I think
there are issues, but like there are issues of things like how do I organize my items for 130 players?
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, those AV improvements are ones that we were excited to make, and I think they really improve that component. We probably should do one of these dev streams at some point using the built-in AV. I think the Discord setup makes it a little easier to configure some things for OBS, but yeah, that would be good to do at some point. Let's see. We do want to continue making more improvements to the UI side of AV. That is something that kind of continues to be on our roadmap. We don't necessarily love the look of the camera frames as it is, and so I think that's a thing that can be definitely improved, given a bit more focus in the future. All right, yeah, so let's move on to talking about key bindings. That's something that got people really excited when we mentioned that it was a possibility. And, Cody did really great work this release to dive deep into the design side of key bindings. We had a lot of like deep design conversations about like how should this look, and that honestly was the fact that we sort of slowed down and took that seriously. I think in the long term is going to be a really good thing for Foundry. In the short term, it's sort of the reason why we didn't get to the UI side of it this time. Is just we ended up really emphasizing a lot of time on getting the design right, and I think I'm proud of how it's come out. So Cody, why don't you tell folks about what we're doing with keybinds and what work you did and what they can look forward to and how folks can use it.
Oh boy, was this a feature. First of all, for those who the question comes out, what about DF hotkeys? What about, Sunspot's, keybinds lib? We actually worked with both of these developers. We, asked them about what considerations they had. We looked at their APIs, and we worked with them in order to build the core feature. It's not like we just, took their stuff and merged it. What we have is a brand new system from scratch. But the goal is to take the idea of those libraries and bring it into core. Until now, you've always had, WASD to move your tokens around and, page in or plus to zoom in and out. With the new system, it will now be possible for users to modify that and set their own keybinds and do things like, oh, actually, I really like, T for target is now like a default keybind, but if you think target, it makes more sense to do, for Y, you can set that. This should allow people who have like expanded keypads or, stream decks, anything that represents itself as a keyboard to configure and control Foundry in the way you want. It does support, like Shift plus T or Alt plus T. So, there is a pretty widespread of available things. It does not support things like Shift T C 8. Too complex. People are asking already about like Control plus click. Clicks are not keyboard events, and so they're still separate from the rest of the system, but might be unified in the future.
We might in the future unify mouse click events into the bindings setup, but we had a lot of discussions about this where use of the mouse is sort of non-negotiable in some aspects of Foundry's usage, and so clicks, left clicks, right clicks, drag operations, things like that, making those types of things bindable didn't necessarily make as much sense, and so we really focused on the keyboard mapping as like the right place to start for this.
Speaking of things that didn't make sense for right now, but we are considering and might have available in the future, we have a prototype of being able to take your standard Xbox controller or other gamepad input and use it with the system. It is not part of core. It will not be part of core for V9, but we hope to make it available as a experimental module to try out. But the net result is modules, systems, and core will all have access to an API that they can register, hey, I want an action, and that action is to open the character sheet. And then these are the defaults for, what keys can do that. And then the user can go and say, actually, I want it to be this key instead. Or with the experimental module, I want it to be the A button on my gamepad to open the character sheet. So we're hoping developers, please do come and ask for help on converting over to the system. With development 2, now is the right time to start using that. Users will not be able to change them with the UI, but they can change it with API. And then in the future, we'll have a UI so people can go see all their keybinds and control it and change them around. looking forward to it. We also wrote some nice documentation and such for it. Question from Flameway, do you get the context for the application or canvas? No, we do not. Foundry does not know which one is focused. As part of this, we did add an enhancement that you can now see which application is at the top of the stack that was not previously available before. But Foundry does not have a concept of what is focused. Thank you so much, Anonymous Gifter.
Oh my gosh, Anonymous Gifter, 50 subs. Holy cow. Well, whoever you are, thank you so much. Your support means an awful lot to us. That's really generous.
Mm-hmm. So as of right now, it is expected that developers will receive, say, their open character sheet, action, and then check, is there an open character sheet? Yes, then close it. Is there not an open character sheet? No, then open it. But they can make decisions about whether or not they run. And if they don't run, the Keybind API will keep going through keybinds until something does run and actually consume that action.
Cody,
go ahead.
Do you want to? I pulled up the API docs on our Alpha API docs for the client keybindings registration event. Would you like to maybe talk through to folks and give them an overview of what different components of the keybind registration means? So one thing that maybe you didn't mention yet, or might not have been clearly clarified, is that not only can this API allow you to rebind core keyboard actions, but it provides a framework for anyone to extend who wants to register their own keyboard actions. So if you're a module developer and you want the P key to do something particular to your module, you can register a key binding action for that, which will integrate in with this system, allow users to customize which key is used for that. So it's definitely designed to extend quite a bit.
Yep. So a quick overview, and we're getting lots of questions. Like a setting, a keybind has a name and a hint that will be displayed in the UI when we get there. Unlike settings, we don't just have a default. We have uneditable defaults and editable defaults. Core uses a lot of uneditable defaults because we want it to always be the case that hitting escape lets you open the menu. Editable defaults are things that can be changed later by the user. Now, this doesn't mean that users can't add a keybind for pause. It just means that they can't remove space as one. So uneditable is part of the set of all the keybinds.
There are some keys that you won't be able to reuse for other purposes because they are, like the arrow keys I think the arrow keys are uneditable for token movement and canvas panning. Is that correct?
Yeah, as of right now, all the core keybinds are uneditable. We are open to feedback on things that don't need to be this way, but for now that, you can add on new keybinds for core actions, but you cannot remove the ones we've always had.
Is that true for things like, T for target or C for character sheet? Are those also?
That is currently true for those as well. But again, we're in the phase where we can make those changes. So if we get feedback, if we make decisions, we might allow you to completely remove T for target.
Yeah, I think that's probably a change we'll make. But we'll collect feedback on that. But yeah, so when you're registering a new key binding, you can specify that some keystroke combinations for that binding cannot be changed by the user, but you also can specify that some of them can be changed by the user. What else can you do when you're registering here?
You can also, I saw a question, you can register modifier-only keybinds, such as Alt for highlight. You just put in the key. You can mark which modifiers are required. For instance, in this example, Control 1 is the required modifier for the first one. You can even register things like, this is a modifier that could be used in this. For instance, when you're copy-pasting a token, when you paste it, you could hold Alt in order to paste it as a hidden token. So Alt is a reserved modifier saying this doesn't have to be pressed, but it could be pressed. When we get to the UI phase, we'll use that to be like, oh, we'll show conflicts among other keybinds. We'll say, show, oh, something else has this reserved. You can't set the reserved keybind as a thing, but that's down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Other boring dev stuff is like on down executes when the key is being pressed down, on up when the key is released. Restrict it means that only the GM can edit and modify it. Precedence lets you define an order, so some keybinds might want to run before other keybinds, some might want to run at the end, because the system will run through until a keybind runs and then stop. Finally, repeat is something where if you hold down a key, it will keep firing. By default, we exclude that. But if you're, moving your token, you want to keep moving. So you can mark that as true if you want to keep going.
Nice.
All this and more will be, it is a fairly complex system we've built, but we hope it gives you the level of control you want. And please hit us up in dev support for converting your stuff over to use it.
Yeah. And these API docs are available now at foundryvtt.com/API/alpha. So if you want to poke through any of this and start thinking about it, you can look at these API docs now. So that handles keybind action registration. There is a separate API for actually setting the keybind that you want to use. So you can use that to assign a new key to be used for something. So for example, let's see here if I dare risk a live demo.
Live demo.
I can look at game.keybindings to look at the client keybindings class, the instance of that class. I can look at game keybindings actions to see a mapping of all of the actions that have been registered. So for example, suppose I wanted to make it to where instead of C for character sheet, I'm going to use H for character sheet, okay? So I can do game.keybindings.set core, comma, let's see, what's the action name? Character sheet. And then we're going to pass an object as the binding. And I'm not going to do any modifier. I'm just going to do, let me check my API docs here. I'm going to do key of H. Am I doing this right, Cody?
Yep.
Okay, so, I must pass in an array of values. I love an informative error message. Thank you, Cody, for making
I try my
easier.
best.
Love an informative error. All right, so I passed in an array of bindings, and I should have bound H to the character sheet now. So let's try it and see if it works. H. Hey, I'm getting it. It's working. Very cool.
How do I know you're not just hitting C, though?
Oh, wait. Okay. Can you see my keyboard? This is the H key. This is it. It's happening. Okay. Yeah. Good. Demo success. Yeah. So brilliant. So yeah. So that's a bit of the key binding API. I saw a question about like resolving ties or conflicts between modules, and just to re-emphasize that, what Cody said is that if multiple things end up overlapping on the same keystroke combination, it is going to come down to the precedence with which they were registered. So basically, whichever the first handler that acknowledges that they've handled the event that reports back in that way is going to sort of claim the key binding. So, it is a space that can be potentially horizontally developed by many modules. So the precedence system is the one that you should use to try and elect responsibly if your module absolutely needs to go first, or if your module can afford to go later if only specific conditions are met. I think the community will probably adopt some standards around and best practices around this. So we'll see during the further testing how that evolves.
Mm-hmm. I'm impressed you didn't break your keyboard.
Oh, yeah.
And someone asked, and I'd like to just stress, Uneditable means that you cannot remove that keybind. C will always open the character sheet unless we remove that as a registration. Escape will always dismiss. But you can add on additional bindings. The user can still say, I want function 1 to dismiss, and that will be allowed. These bindings are client-side only, so if you go between computers that have different setups, you can make sure your laptop might have a different keyboard setup than your desktop. You might have a Stream Deck at home, but not on the road, so you can set these up for your device as preferred.
Maybe I won't commit to this because it's just an idea, and we can't really commit to ideas at this stage of the V9 milestone, but maybe at some point we can give away for someone to like export their keybind configuration to like JSON that you could then like import it somewhere else if you wanted to sort of, sync your key bindings across multiple devices or something like that. But no promises on that. Well, something we might think about.
Quite an easy module to make if
Yeah.
someone wanted to do that. Quite small.
Users cannot configure precedences, only developers can, Seal. I know there's going to be lots of developer questions. Let's not take the rest of the stream answering developer questions on this fairly complex API. Do ask questions in dev support, and that's my job to be there and answer.
Good clarification there. Yeah, let's get to some of the other stuff that we've added in V9 Dev 2, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll get on to giveaways and questions and stuff. But we got plenty of other stuff that we've added as well that is all also very exciting. Couple things more just infrastructure. A bunch of dependencies have updated to new versions. There is a list in the linked GitLab of which dependencies have updated. Most of them aren't really affecting client side. I think the biggest one that affects client side is Pixie 6.2. And Electron has gotten an update to version 15.3. So it's not required to update your Electron, but if you reinstall Foundry from scratch, you would get a new Electron version that has some new performance and sort of nice to have features. It's nothing critical. So that's in terms of infrastructure. We already talked about the algorithm improvements for lighting and sight. We made some performance improvements to overhead tiles to only compute their pixel transparency mapping when necessary. So it used to be that when setting up a scene that had overhead tiles, we would compute all of those pixel mappings for all overhead tiles immediately. Now that's a lazy operation where it will compute those mappings as needed and cache them until the tile changes. So that was a nice little boost. We made some configuration improvements to the Foundry canvas environment to take better use of some Pixie options for configuration, some of them that were newer additions. So for example, it's a little technical, like auto density for screen resolution. We now set WebGL2 as the recommended preferred WebGL version. This doesn't make any actual change except for some devices that could use either 2 or 1. It tells them to prefer 2. One thing that's a nice little change is we made it to where you can change some aspects of the scene without it being a full scene reload. Kim, you want to talk a little bit about which those aspects are?
Sure. Yeah, it was background color, and grid opacity. So you can preview those.
Yeah, so as I'm changing grid color here, I noticed that the grid color sort of changes as I preview it. And if I commit my change, it's just done. There's no like reload of the scene. It just sort of happens. So it is kind of a more seamless thing to change your grid color or your grid opacity. That's nice.
Yeah, tweaking that opacity in real time is quite important because I'm always tweaking that per scene.
Mm-hmm. I think there was a couple other things that now are real time too. Is it? Oh yeah, background color.
Background color, yeah.
Is the new sort of smaller tab-based scene configuration thing, is that new in this version, or was that from the previous one? I don't remember when we did that.
I think we got it in right at the end of
Right at the
Devon 1.
end. Oh yeah, right at the end of the previous version.
I don't know if we did a stream that had that on it or not, but if you're seeing this for the first time, the new sort of smaller tab-based scene configuration is kind of a new thing. Some things have been labeled in order to be a little bit like easier to understand and follow for new players. So yeah, that's a nice little addition. Let's see, going back to the notes, we talked about AV changes and the improvement to tracking the state of that for users. One thing that many of you noted is that in a previous version, we added API support for having combat encounters that are unlinked from any particular scene. And while this was supported in the API, kind of, it had some rough edges where it didn't work in some situations, and it also didn't really leave normal users with a good way to do that unless they knew how to like write a macro or something that would do it. So Kim, why don't you talk about how it's now easier to have combat encounters that stretch across multiple scenes?
Sure. Yeah. If you start a combat encounter, you can see the new UI for it.
That's maybe a few too many people. Let's do a smaller encounter. I just put like 1 billion people in there. All right.
Perfect for the super map.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it there now as that little pin icon. It's highlighted in orange at the moment because it's currently pinned to the scene. And if you click it, it will unpin that combat from that scene, allowing you to, if you switch to a different scene, for example, that it will stay activated. There was also some additional like rough edges around. There's just some more iteration on playing around with unlinked scenes and switching between scenes unlinked encounters and switching between scenes and all of that. So it's been polished up. I'm sure there's probably still edge cases and special cases in there, but
some of that's what testing's for, right? So so I'm on a different scene now that doesn't have these tokens, aren't actually in the scene, but the combat tracker is still using just fine. If I were to pin it back to the scene it's from, I don't know what will happen. Let's see.
You can pin it. You're pinning it to this scene.
I'm pinning it to this scene now. That's clever. Yeah. I like that. So I've just pinned it to this scene. I can unpin it, pin it back to the original scene. If I pin it to the original scene, and then I go back to Ancient Wizard's Lair. Let's see. Yeah, no active encounter anymore. So yeah, you can have an encounter on Ancient Wizard's Lair here that is scene specific. But if I were to unpin the encounter from Winter Inn, it would be accessible in both scenes. So yeah, it's a much nicer user experience around having combat encounters that stretch across multiple scenes. That would have been really handy for the last couple of game sessions that I DM'd, so thanks for being a little bit too slow on that, Kim. No, I'm just kidding.
Ruthless.
Yeah. No, but that's a great feature to have, and I'm excited that is now easier to use to have combat encounters that go across more than one scene. So yeah, good stuff on that. Let's see here. Oh man, this cyberpunk music is really kicking ass right now. Tabletop RPG music, everyone.
I'll bet they're in chat. I feel like they're always in chat.
Love me some tabletop RPG music. All right, let's see here. So next up. Some other improvements about the combat tracker, just sort of small stuff. So this is a nice one, nice little feature. We made it to where dragging and dropping a document of any type into chat will create a link to it. So you can already do this on a journal entry, but or like in the MCE editor, but you can now do this in chat as well. So if I were to like drop an actor into chat, I can send a chat message that contains a link to that document. Like if you want to, if you want to like link your players to a particular journal entry or something, you can just drop that right in chat, send a message, and it'll give them a link that they can use to open the sheet for that particular thing, if they have permission to view it. They might not have permission to view it, but yeah, that's a nice little feature that was a quick value add.
Yeah, and it doesn't add anything that wasn't already linkable before. Whatever was linkable in text and journal entries is linkable in the chat.
Can I link to a card deck? Is that supported?
I don't know. Did you add support for it?
I don't know. I can't. We should add support for that. You should be able to link to a card deck. Let's do that.
Add it to the GitLab.
Yeah, to the GitLab.
Add it to the GitLab, and we'll prioritize it as we feel necessary.
Oh, they're not gonna do my thing. All right. What else? So Kim, you also did some nice quality of life stuff for macros.
Yep, that's right. That was a request that came in. I think this is for like blind players. We're using this. We're using a module a lot for this. So now you can run your macros from the chat entirely by doing /macro or /m and then the macro name, and it will execute it.
Or number.
Suppose I'm playing this cleric and I have a macro for using my mace. If I do /macro mace, then I get the chat card for my mace. And it doesn't have to be a macro that is, well, I don't think, Kim, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think it has to be a macro that's actually on your bar. As long as the macro exists in the world, like I can remove it from the macro bar and /macro mace will still correctly use the mace. So if you have someone that, who's playing at your table that has an easier time entering text into chat than navigating other aspects of the UI, if you set up some macros for them ahead of time, and as long as they know the names of those macros, they can just use chat to, to trigger all of those programmatic things.
Yep, it's cool anyway as well. It's quite useful if you just prefer to. You can run a lot of stuff just in the flow. I've used it a bit actually when I'm DMing.
Yeah, I did this when I was so I had a scene that I was preparing for that the group that didn't get to it, but I did have a sort of scripted thing where like some tiles move, and I made a macro to make sure that I did it correctly, and I did have it on my bar, but I was thinking, well, I don't have to have it on my bar. I know the name of this macro, so I can just, whenever I'm ready, just type /macro, do the thing, and I don't have to worry about managing it that way. So it's nice to have a couple of like pre-programmed sort of shortcut commands that you use pretty frequently as a library of little scripts that you can name and then use right in chat.
Now, Kim, you sent an MR to the chat commands library to add it as a core chat, right?
The chat to add, well, to rework the module to use the core.
No, I'm just teasing.
I don't know what you're talking about, Cody.
Move on.
Cody uses like 700 modules, and actually
I am down to 60.
Andrew and I are actually very light on modules. So
all right, moving on. The list of journal entries in the drop-down selector for map notes is now alphabetically sorted. That's a nice little thing. So if you have something pinned to the map and you need to change which entry it points to, this drop-down list, it used to be just kind of arbitrarily ordered, and so now it's alphabetical, which is just, it's just a small thing. Let's see, token configuration window. I guess this should probably read, if Nath, you're listening in here, I think this one should probably read the token HUD. Although I guess the configuration window now allows it to. I'm not sure if either or both needed to change, but you can have like decimal point elevation now, which isn't so useful on like a 5e system where the map is in feet, but if you're on like a world map where the map is in kilometers or miles or something, you might need elevation to be a non-integer. So you can do that now. If you need an elevation that is not an integer, so be it. Let's see what else we got. Address some small inconsistencies in the controls reference. So that's just temporary touch-ups to this panel, which we are going to replace completely with the new key binding interface. So this is just a holdover for now. This UI will be going away, and it will be replaced with the key binding UI once we have that done. So, but we did correct a couple of errors on this UI for the time being.
We have also now handled OS-specific command keys. So if you're on Mac, it should read like the little Apple key plus whatever, and on anything more reasonable, it'll just say Control.
Yeah.
What is the name for that? Command.
They call it Meta.
Meta. Yeah.
Like Facebook.
Oh no. All right, this one's fun. We have even more icons. Everyone loves icons, so our icons library has grown by another little notch. We have more icons that have been migrated into the core. It's not like one directory that I can point to and say like these are all new, but there's, for example, like some potions that have been added to the potions one. There's some mushrooms that have been added to the mushrooms one. There were a couple
finally!
Yeah, finally you can have that umbonte. What is an umbonte? How do you say that type of mushroom? UNBONTAE?
What I do know is Foundry was not complete until it was in the icon library.
Yeah, sure. We're still not complete, but at least now you have a donut with red glaze.
Perfect for my modern campaigns.
Yeah. Or a nice little roll of breadsticks wrapped in a piece of cloth.
Now that just feels extraneous.
Okay, well, whatever. So many icons. All right, let's see, what's next? All right, so that gets through new features. I'm going to just kind of run quickly through API improvements because I don't want to be too technical here, but some API improvements to support the unlinking, the disassociation of combat encounters from a particular scene, all of the Polygon stuff that we already talked about, some improvements to the way that Fog of War is initialized to address a couple of issues there. Some bug fixes and API improvements for drawing active effect icons or token bars. A couple of standardizations of what methods return what. I'll allow you all to just kind of read these notes when they go live. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. Nothing too groundbreaking or earth-shattering here. Go ahead. Well, I was going to get onto the key binding stuff, which we've already talked about a little bit, but what were you going to say, Cody?
Part of the key binding work, we introduced two new core API methods. One, toggle character sheet, and two, highlight objects on canvas. If you're a developer, you can now do that.
Yeah, if you want to programmatically toggle the character sheet, or if you want to programmatically, when we say highlight objects, we're talking about what happens when you hit, by default, the Alt key that sort of highlights tokens that are present, or whatever layer you're on, whether it's walls, light sources, tiles. We improved some... Oh, this is a big one, actually, that we haven't talked about yet. So sheet registration. Kim, do you want to give us a little overview here?
Yeah, this is purely a API thing. That's, I think, it's been in the backlog for a little while. There's a way that you can choose a sheet, like choose which, like GMs can decide on the default sheets to use for all the different actor types, all the different item types, and that was already fairly modular and open. It actually worked with a little bit of fiddling to get it to work for any document type. So we just kind of made it official now. Can hook into that on any document type. It doesn't show the sheet configuration bar. It's purely like an API thing. If you are a module that wants to provide some different journal sheets, for example, or allow that to be configured, you can. It's reasonably easy to do with any of the journal anything that extends from document sheet. I think can set sheet config to true and get all of that for free now. So there's some rough edges, like tokens.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would love to see us expand on, and maybe I don't know if it'll be part of V9 or if it will be later, but like for the other types of documents that do support sheet configuration, like when you're viewing one of those documents, you can kind of open the sheet config to say like, no, I want this document to use this particular sheet. So like if there's a custom UI for a card hand and you want to use that custom UI for how you view your hand, you know, you can make it to where your hand will always use that like fancy UI. And I think that same value could exist for things like journal entries, where like, you know, if there's a particular journal entry that is more about like, this is a quest that the party is doing, and this journal entry exists to record that this is a quest you're on, or this is a point of interest, it's a location in the world. You might have like specifically structured like render view of like what a location entry looks like, where maybe like the image and the text are side by side instead of like one or the other or something like that. And I think it'd be nice to like get that button into the header so that as different sheet options for something like a journal entry is available, it lets players or the DM choose like, how do I want this one to look? But you know, I think that's
totally just turn that on. But
it would be a pretty easy thing to turn on. But you know, I think one step at a time. But But yeah, definitely a good step to even allow for the possibility of custom sheet types and sheet registrations and stuff.
That's right. You can register your custom sheets now as a module.
So many developers will be happy, especially Zeal.
Like.
Yeah,
Look at Zeal.
especially Zeal. Yeah, so that's a big one. Very exciting. The wall config sheet, I noticed, I don't know how it escaped my notice until now, but it wasn't actually a document sheet subclass, which was weird. So now it is. So that's nice.
Was it form application?
It was just directly extending form application, yeah.
The token config does that too, and maybe we should change that.
Ugh, don't tell me these things.
Sorry,
That's
I noticed
gross.
that.
So they get lab cam.
That's gross.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
they should be document sheets. That's
Okay,
that's
that would actually help with some of this sheet registration stuff.
Okay, well that's good. Yeah, we did make some documentation improvements, improving the API docs, in addition to all the new stuff that's been added in. One improvement for localization, which I think is important for you to note. So there was an issue with localization where, you know, because we take the localization keys and we blow them out into a nested object structure, if you were to provide like a partial reference to a localization path, it used to incorrectly give you a whole object back rather than a specific string. So what do I mean by that? Like internationalization, translations. So if I look at like what are the translations, for example, like the dice namespace, there's like a couple of, or the document namespace. If I previously did, game I18N localize documents, or document singular, or no, this is this is actually what I'm trying to show. It used to be that if I did, if I passed the root object name, it would incorrectly give me the whole object back, which isn't actually a translatable string. And so now if you do that, it's just gonna not translate it. So if I passed in, walls, all caps, I get walls back. If I want an actual translation string from inside walls, like walls dot, movement, I will get that translation string. But this just makes the localization API a little bit more robust, because that was a weird failure case that was not handled properly. Let's see. So other bug fixes, some API stuff. This is mostly small things, so I probably won't go through these blow by blow. Fix to Compendium collection update all. Useful. This is one that may be important for people to keep an eye on as you're testing, so I will mention it. If when you first launch a world for the first time, so for example, suppose I'll go back to setup and I'll launch a different world like Demon Queen. If that world needed to do a migration because any of its data was needed to go through an important core migration, there would be a window while that migration was in process that if a user tried to connect to the world, they would be allowed to try to connect, but the world data wouldn't actually be ready yet, and it could cause some problems during that kind of weird window of accessibility. So now, if your world is going through a required migration, players won't be able to connect to that world until the migration completes. And that just happens when you're first launching the world, so it shouldn't be a big deal. But it is important to eliminate that. Let's see. Going back to the notes, I'll put a little music on maybe.
For those people who are trying out V9, if you previously, when you migrated a world from 08 to V9, you couldn't go back because we swapped from entity to type. Now we maintain both, so you can go back and forth as you test things out. This will be removed in the future, but it should make it a little easier to try out this release. Specifically,
Cody is talking about the compendium data in a package manifest.
Yep.
There are other places that have also had that type of migration that are not potentially breaking, but are relevant. So that was a good fix.
But you should back up all your stuff anyway if you're going to
back up all your stuff. Don't migrate your 2-year-old game.
Yeah, back up.
Try out a new world.
Many other bug fixes for documents, game canvas. I don't think any of this is really key for me to talk about specifically.
The WebM stuff.
Tell us
basically, about that. I think it was maybe this release. There was some changes to how they were fetched to get around, not to get around cause issues, but to provide some finer grained error handling around cause issues, and that pretty significantly broke WebMs in a lot of places, and there are a lot of different issues that turned out to be all the same root cause. So that should now be fixed, and it should be working a lot better in this version.
Nice, that's good to hear. Let's see here.
I kind of want you to show the Chrome bug on like a normal web page with page up.
Yeah, I probably can show it on the demo server.
Oh, the page up one. Yeah,
that's so funny.
That bug's been around.
We discovered that in the current build, if you had the chat input box selected and you hit page up, it just no.
Maybe it's in this release.
No, maybe it's maybe it was a V9 bug because it's not doing it on the demo server right now.
Go into like a journal. I think it was like a tiny MCE one that.
No,
Yeah.
We don't even know what's happening. Oh yeah, there it goes. That's really screwed up. There, where's my VTT?
Right.
Where'd it go? Come back.
That's a Chrome bug that's been there since 2018.
That's a fun one that we found. A little edge case.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chrome's like trying to put
Remotely.
your cursor at the top left of the screen. It's a mess.
I see. Yeah, that's.
But we fixed it. Well, rather Kim fixed it
Yeah.
via some black magic that I think it's a workaround hack. But we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's background.
If you're using the authors plural block for your package manifest, that will now display correctly again on the setup page to display multiple authors.
It links to author URLs now as well.
Yeah. Other minor stuff, probably not worth digging into too much. So I think what we should do at this point is take a little break. And then when we come back, we can do a giveaway. And once we're done with the giveaway, we can take questions from chat. So I hope you'll stick around. I hope you will save up all of your questions that you'd like to ask us. And myself, Cody, and Kim, we will be around tackling all of your questions after the break. Please don't go anywhere, and we will be back shortly. Break.
That easy.
That's what we have to.
And we are back. Thank you for sticking with us. We are going to do a giveaway. So I created a rollable table right here in Foundry VTT with all of you from Twitch chat who were logged in when we went to break. And we're going to do, so normally we give away Foundry licenses. We'll do a couple of those, but I'm also going to give away several copies of the Demon Queen Awakens, which is our original adventure for Foundry Virtual Tabletop. It is a adventure for D&D 5e. It is for 9th level characters, and it pits them against some really amazingly challenging and horrifying evil baddies in the Vault of Aten. In an original adventure setting. It's quite beautiful. It is a lot of fun to play, or so I think, and I hope you'll enjoy it a lot. So we're going to give away a couple copies of that. You can get access to the playtest of it if you're in our Patreon program, which is foundryvtt.com/Patreon. Wait, that's not right. Patreon.com/FoundryVTT. And it's the top tier of Patreon that has access to the playtest right now, but it will be available for more people in the future once the final version's available. But what we're going to give away today is keys that will always entitle you to the final version of the Demon Queen Awakens, regardless of whether you are in Patreon or not. So that is a nice little thing we can give away. So I'll do a couple of software licenses and then a couple of Demon Queen drawings as well. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel of fate and see who our winners are for today. So everyone channel your luck and give me the drum roll, and here we go. Earl Grey, 15, you are our first winner. I'm going to go and roll a second one, which is Raistlin the Win. Raistlin the Twin. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that extra T that was hiding on me. Raistlin the Twin, Earl Grey 15. If either of you are here and you accept a Foundry VTT license key, let us know if you are interested in your prize. Let us know in chat. Roll tables did get a bit faster, yes. We fixed a couple of things that were making them slightly laggy.
Well, I think particularly with embedded compendia.
Yeah, I don't think it would be any faster for text entries.
It might be. I don't know. Probably not, though. I'm not sure. All right, clock's ticking. Let's see if we get any accepts from either Earl Grey 15 or Raceland the Twin.
Raceland the Twin just replied.
Oh, did I miss it? I accept. Yes, awesome. Well, congratulations to you. And what you'll need to do, and this applies to any other winner as well, is send me a DM on Twitch and remind me that you won. And what you'll need to do is create a user account on foundryvtt.com if you don't already have one. If you do already have one, just send me your username, and I will get that license and the Demon Queen adventure sent your way. You'll get both of them. Let's see if... did we get anything from Earl Grey? I don't think so. So I am going to rule them out. And roll again. Here we go. Myriadis, one of our long-time community followers. Well-deserved. After many years of following along Foundry VTT. You are overdue for a win, I think. I know you have a Foundry license already, but you are very welcome to another one.
They said that they would be giving away their license if they won already.
Did they? No way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they said they were passing on to a fellow Brazilian.
Well, we'll just have to wait for... If you're Brazilian and you don't own Foundry VTT, say something in Portuguese in chat that communicates to Myriadis that you are a kindred spirit, and you will be...
Myriadis is gonna get completely bombarded.
All right, everyone go to translate.google.com.
It's all happening. What have we done?
Thank you, Atro, for breaking the moderation rule of English only.
Oh, no.
Portuguese chat now.
Portuguese chat now, yeah. All right, let's do one more for the license, and then we'll do a couple more for Demon Queen. Myriadis, you get to choose your winner, and let me know who it is. Oh my gosh! K-Walk, no way! This is rigged. This is rigged for all of our favorite people. Well, sorry everyone else, but K-Walk, who I mentioned earlier in the stream, is responsible for the amazing suggestions and guidance in terms of improvements to the Polygon computation. K-Walk, you are the winner of a Foundry license. If you want an extra one, or if you want to give it away, or if you want me to roll again, let me know whatever you would prefer if you accept.
We'll now be spending the next 20 minutes in chat explaining how Foundry RNG is in fact fair.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Very controversial topic.
Hey, look, not around.
Definitely went AFK right in time for the giveaway, as so many are like to do. Well, I owe K-Walk at least a license, so I'm going to roll again, and if he wants a license, he can have one. So I will roll again and see what we get. Tilox, or Tilox, Tilox, number 342. If you are here, you are the winner of a Foundry VTT license and a Demon Queen Awakens adventure. We'll see if Tilox is around.
Next segment after this is questions, right?
Yeah, so please do start thinking of any questions that you want to ask us, but don't ask them yet, because we are doing the giveaway right now. All right, we're rolling again.
Yep.
The Catalyster. The Catalyster. If you are here, you are a winner. I see their shock is palpable. What? How dare you gift me? No, I don't.
I'll take it.
I don't think it's indignance. Yo, I'll take it. You're very welcome.
Sounds like an accept.
Yeah, get yourself set up with an account on the website. Send me a DM with your username. I will get that license over to you momentarily. So for those 2 winners, you are getting or 3 winners, however many it was, you are getting a Foundry VTT license and the Demon Queen Awakens. I'm going to do another couple that are just for the Demon Queen Awakens. So for this, you have to already have Foundry. So if you don't have Foundry, you're going to have to pass, I'm afraid. But I'm gonna pull a couple.
What if they plan on buying it for the Black Friday sale?
Oh well, yeah, that's fair too. You can, if you're planning on getting it. I'm gonna draw a couple more for Demon Queen. So I'll just give it like 3 or 4 rolls, and we'll see here. Actually, let me mark these as the ones that didn't get drawn, and then. Let's do a couple rolls. We got Eric RDM. We've got Bums Burn. We've got Templar's Knight and Story Weaver. There's 4 of you that, if any of you are around, if you own Foundry VTT or plan to get it in the near future, and you will get a Demon Queen Awakens adventure. Some of our premium content that will be added to your account. Eric RDM, Bums Burn, Templar's Knight, and Story Weaver.
Story Weaver accepted.
All right, Story Weaver, cool. Very nice.
I think I missed anyone.
We'll see if we got Templar's Knight, Bums Bernie, or Eric RDM.
How many more times will we have to say bums burn?
Bums burn.
Bums burn!
All across the land, bums are burning as we wait for them to respond.
That's my next campaign hook.
Yeah. All right, we'll roll again. A couple more. Dangerously Facetious. I like that name. Malakans. And Not Your Sysadmin. I like that one too.
That's a good one.
Not Your Sysadmin. Malakan C. And Dangerously Facetious. Malakan C.
Malakan
Accepts. Excellent. Let's see if we get anything. Oh yes, sweet. Not Your Sysadmin. Excellent. We're on a roll with this one. Now we're just looking for Dangerously Facetious.
Yeah.
Oh, the tension is palpable.
Turn.
This audio is not helping. It's so tense. I need less tension. I don't think this is less tense. Why is all of our music in Demon Queen Awakens so tense?
Something about the myriad of very dangerous foes.
Yeah. All right, well, I think we got a good number of winners, so I think Dangerously Facetious may have missed the window, but congratulations to all of the other winners, who some of you got Foundry license keys, and some of you get keys for the Demon Queen Awakens, which is our original adventure, which is very fun and terrifying. I probably shouldn't show this one. That's a spoiler scene. Well, let's not do that one. All right, let me switch back to our regular little testing demo world, so I don't give away any Demon Queen spoilers. And let's go on to questions. So for the next hour or so, we are going to answer questions from chat. If you have something you would like to know about Foundry VTT, about what we've shown today, it's great if it's topical related to V9, but if not, we're happy to answer pretty much anything. So please preface your question with like all caps question, and that'll help us to pick it out from chat. And we're going to kind of take turns pulling questions and letting each other answer. And let's go ahead and get started with Sapient AI. Question: what is the state of active effects? Are they stable yet?
Yes.
Yeah, they're stable. They could be. There's a difference between stable and completed. They are not. We've not completed all of the things we would ever like to do with active effects. There's more that we'd like to do with that system, but they are stable. Yeah, it's not something that we've worked on in V9. Question.
Nope. Yeah, CCJMK asks, is there news of the 5e dev stream, along with a couple other questions I'm going to break up.
Yeah, Kim and I were talking about doing a 5e specific dev stream sometime between now and the V9 stable release. So hopefully in the next couple of weeks we'll put something like that together. And
is there a tentative release date for Demon Queen Awakens? Patrons can already access it now with the what do we call it? Playtest.
Yeah.
Non-patrons when?
So we've been getting good playtest feedback. I think we're waiting for maybe a couple of groups to do the final boss. I think I'm hoping to get some good feedback from other groups that do the final boss fight in that adventure, and so I think probably it'll be another couple weeks, just so that we can make sure that we catch any big balance. I mean, I don't think there's big balance problems or anything, but each group that experiences the adventure, they have a different experience. That's kind of the joy of D&D, and so they highlight aspects of the design that maybe could be improved upon. And so just probably going to give it another couple of weeks to let some of that feedback trickle in, and then we'll package it as a sort of full release.
By design, there's a few different ways through the adventure as well.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. All right, Kim, you're supposed to have a question ready.
Oh, is that? Sorry.
Yeah, we're cycling through here.
There's one that was, what are your thoughts on people turning Foundry into 3D?
Kim, do you see the X I put next to that question?
That's what you get for asking me.
Well,
I think people are free to do whatever they want with modules, and it's a very cool technology setup, and I probably will never actually do it myself.
I think it's cool, and definite props to Ripper for just getting out there and seeing what can be done. I think we have developers in our community that are extremely creative and talented and determined to find a way to do lots of cool stuff.
He's not the only one. Isometric mode has been around for a while, which I certainly say is a version of 3D.
Yeah,
I really like isometric in general. I think Foundry offers like a really, really good, robust way to handle having lots of players connected, persisting data. It's got really good APIs around that make it so good to build whatever you want on to it. And that's why any sort of view mode can be layered on.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, it's cool stuff, and I think I can only imagine how much work is going into exploring that idea, both for isometric or for Ripper's sort of prototype 3D mode. There are great libraries out there that I'm sure are doing a lot of the heavy lifting to support the 3D rendering, but it's no trivial thing to do that. I think that it is a testament, though, to the reusability of the WebGL canvas, that whatever's rendered on the canvas can be kind of flexibly swapped in or out, and it's pretty cool.
I saw he was doing the entirety of Dark Souls 1 level in it, which is just insane.
Yeah. Let's see. Toiler asks a question that's sort of for me. How's the homebrew game system development coming along? Oof. The last couple months have been real slow on that. I've just been so focused on the core software. I think once V9 gets to stable, I hope to kind of noodle around with it a bit more, but it's just, there's always something that's sort of very pressing with the core software, and that's been making it hard for me to get things going. I do think that system is close to ready for a narrowly scoped playtest, and I'm pretty excited about it still, so, I do hope to keep putting time in on that here and there. But yeah, that's not a really reassuring response, I know, but it is one of those things that has to be sort of nights and weekends whenever I feel the motivation to do some extra unimportant work. Let me ask another one, since that was sort of just for me. Let's see. Question from Waspor. You mentioned you had changed the back end of WebMs. That's not probably quite what we meant, but could you elaborate quickly on those issues that you faced? Kim, do you want to speak a little bit more about what we did with WebM? Animation in general?
Yeah, I suppose it's really technical, the issues that were caused. But when we were loading WebMs, we were destroying like a kind of file descriptor to the WebM that it still needed to use. We thought it was safe because you can do it with images. With videos you can't, because it needs to reference that a lot, and that was breaking all sorts of things. You couldn't switch scenes, you couldn't drag WebMs, but that's fixed now. You can use WebMs as you could before. It was really like a blip, just some teething issues with how we were trying to get better error handling around cause issues.
Mm-hmm.
There are sometimes, especially with S3, there's some cause issues when you load images, and it's not clear whether it's because of cause, like it's really opaque, and so we were using a different way of loading those to try to reliably tell whether it was for cause, and we needed to like do some cache busting or not.
Yeah. Good. Go ahead.
I'll shotgun answer questions we get every stream, and once again got this stream. One, regional pricing is something we would love to do, but it's very hard for us to do, and therefore we have no plans at this time. Two, no, we don't have any news about upcoming partnerships with any publishers. We will tell you. You will be able to find it. We will announce it in either announcements or content announcements as we have it. That's what you get. Three, I did at least see someone ask, like, what's missing that, would get more publishers working with us? Is it that we don't have enough people? Is that don't have enough people? Which is, I think, a good question and a complicated one to answer. Atra, I don't know if you want to take a stab at that.
Well, yeah, it's a good question. I think there's no one thing that is missing, I would say, because each publisher has different needs and different capabilities that they're, comfortable with applying towards, digitization of their products. For some publishers, it's just that they don't necessarily have resources to prioritize it. For some, it's that, there's concerns about which VTTs are really worth pursuing. Foundry's been around for a while now, but we're still relatively young. This is actually about our 1.5 year birthday. 1.5 we're about. And, that's not very long, really. And so I think, for some publishers, they're still in a sort of wait and see mode of like which VTTs are worth partnering with. For some, they like different models better than others in terms of which potential partners will like do more of the work in terms of the content conversion. We have done cases where we've partnered directly with the creator to assist with some of the conversion, but we generally prefer to, connect publishers with freelancers in the community who are very capable of doing Foundry content creation. Let the publisher source themselves the resources to do that conversion in-house or with a contractor, and we provide support for getting those products to market, but we don't necessarily take on the responsibility of converting all your content for you. That's something that some publishers are more interested in. I think there's various things. I think generally, though, the stronger that the Foundry community grows in terms of the number of active users that the platform has, I think the more robust the software grows in terms of its stability, its features that it supports. I think it starts to be very hard for publishers to resist being part of this. And we have a number, people asked about upcoming partnerships. We can't announce anything until it actually exists, but we have a number of irons in the fire in terms of publishers that are working on getting content out for Foundry that haven't yet had a release, but they're working on that. And so, there's more stuff coming, there's new stuff coming, but it is a process. And I think that we're a bit spoiled in terms of seeing a community of module developers that moves so quickly to do stuff. It's just not the pace that publishers generally move at. And so I think, we need better reference points in terms of how long it should take or things like that. And so I just encourage everyone to remain patient, and good things will continue to come.
I'll reiterate something we said on the last Hammering It Out episode, which is the best thing you can do is politely and friendly express interest to publishers, and the worst thing you can do is demand it and stomp your feet.
It's also not good if you politely request it on everything that they ever post on Twitter. Like,
yes.
Sometimes even a polite but unsolicited, would you please put your content on Foundry? It does annoy people. But it's also great to have, folks that support our product and support the community ask for that, because that's how publishers know that there is interest. So, do express yourself, do communicate those preferences, but do it respectfully, as Cody said.
Okay.
Sure, I'll get two, because there was two about the same thing, which was having... So they're connected. Would it be possible to make the file picker for card visual images, for card visuals, be image and video? That was a similar question. Can cards/card backs be WebMs?
Can they currently? I don't think so. But
I assume not. But actually, I haven't checked. I don't see why not, though.
I think they cannot currently be WebMs. I think for the most part, we allow WebMs in places where that asset is going to be rendered on the canvas, but we don't have WebM support as much in places where it's just rendered in the DOM. So this is something that we probably need to look into adding. But it's a good request. Was that both questions together, Kim, or did you have another one?
I scooped both those up because they were kind of similar.
Cool. It's my turn then.
Yeah.
Let's see. What's the chance of getting find the culprit in core? It seems like a really important thing for module troubleshooting. Surprising number of users don't know it exists. It's an interesting idea.
Every release, we work with module and system developers to integrate some amount of features or things into core. It's never been just taking their code base and hitting merge.
Yeah.
It's not a bad idea for V10.
It's not a bad idea. I think there's various ways to troubleshoot like which modules are problematic. I think Find the Culprit has emerged as like a pretty commonly used and effective tool for that, and I think given its proven success in helping people to hone in on what's causing a problem, I think it would be a good thing to think about, like, well, now that that's proven to be a good way to handle this situation, do we want to try and build that into core? It's a nice idea.
Do you want to do another one, or?
Who asked that question? I don't know. Whose turn is it?
It's my turn then.
Okay.
Another shotgun one I forgot to say. I should really write down my spiel every time. Do we have plans for X? If it's not in our GitLab in a milestone committed, then no. We might think about it, We might have had thoughts about it, may have had conversations about it, but we don't have plans for a thing until it's committed in a milestone. I know some people have already mentioned that I sound a little grumpy. It's just almost without fail, every stream, it's it's not. We do love these ideas, but we also have a mechanism for keeping track of ideas and prioritizing them, and that's GitLab. Some other questions. Let's see. Someone asked a kind one. Are Austin asked, "Are you all sufficiently patting yourselves on the back and taking time off for the hard work you've been doing? Applies to all staffs and moderators. Thank you. We appreciate that you recognize our hard work. I believe all of us have plans to take time off for the holidays, so do expect Foundry staff to be, less responsive or out of office entirely in the holiday parts of the year. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's kind, and it is something that is important for us to not burn out or anything. I think we have been trying to take time to reflect positively on everything that we're accomplishing. In our weekly meeting this week, we talked specifically about everyone taking time off over the holidays and making sure that we all have time for that. It is something that we're taking seriously, and there's going to be a bit of a gap between V9 stable and the start of development on V10, where between 6 to 7, 7 to 8, 8 to 9, we kind of went back to back to back, where as soon as the stable of the previous version was done, we started development immediately for the next version. I think we're probably going to have a little bit of a pause before beginning development on V10, just because of the holidays and to give us all a little breather. Kim, what do you got?
I was going to pick the one from Bolts about changing the hex grids because I wasn't sure about that either. Is the hex grid rework? I don't think it's in a milestone actually. It's an epic. We've got an epic for it, so we haven't prioritized it yet.
It's not yet prioritized. I do want to kind of rework the way that some aspects of hex grid coordinate management are done. I think it's kind of due for a round of improvements, and there's some aspects of the hex grid stuff that really could be improved, I think. And so it's something that we'll be definitely considering as part of V10 prioritization when the time comes. Is do we want to work on making some hex grid improvements?
Yeah, so I don't think anything for V9. I know Bolts has a module out there that does some small patches to fix up some of the issues, and that works pretty well. So until we're able to prioritize that, I think.
Oh, it's my turn.
Yeah.
I was playing with pretty lights.
Yeah.
Is there or will there be a way to reset module settings to default? There is there not?
The safe mode.
Well, no,
there's
under configure settings, if you reset defaults, it resets all of your module stuff too, right?
Yep.
Am I wrong? I think
no, that's correct.
Yeah.
I was about to post
it might be
actually.
it would be nice to add a way to do that on like a module by module basis. So if you want to just reset just one module back to default, that would be nice rather than needing to reset all of your settings. So probably what would be better is to break this out like section by section, where each individual section of the settings can be individually reset. So that would be a nice thing to get recorded in GitLab and think about doing. Let me do one more, since that one didn't really result in too much.
There's a lot
insight.
of lighting questions.
Are there? What am I missing?
Some of them are a bit far back, but I think a generalized question is: can module developers tap into the work on the lighting engine in order to do things like they want to be able to stop an active effect if there's a wall between two tokens, or things like that? Can they tap into the new lighting engine improvements?
Yeah, definitely. There is some APIs involved that you can use to create polygons to test collision. So, for example, like if you wanted to test, is there something between this light source and this token? As long as you know the coordinates of both of those and which type of collision you want to test for, there's an API in the Polygon class for doing that. So in the Clockwise sweep Polygon, you can use the get ray collisions and the other sort of collision testing methods. So there's a method in the base class, the point source polygon. All polygons have this to check for collision. So so you can do that. There's APIs there you can use. One thing that is noteworthy, this is not new in just Dev 2, but every the backend that's used to compute these polygons, like the Clockwise sweep, they're all subclasses of point source polygon now, so it provides a standardized interface for how this thing works. So different visualization methods can be used. You can substitute in which is the backend that's actually used if you want to try a variation, like you think you can do something in a smarter way or faster or add a new feature. You can extend the Clockwise sweep polygon or extend the base point source polygon and set that as your backend for development. I'm trying to think what else might be relevant, but yeah, I mean, for example, like using the API of the Clockwise sweep, if I just create Clockwise sweep polygon.create, I just have to pass a point, so it can be like any pair of coordinates. I'll just do x 2000, y 2000, type say site, and I'll debug it. I can create this polygon instance. Oh wow, that's all the way over there. This is a big map. Let's do one at like 5,000, 5,000. Yeah, so like I can create this polygon and I can get the created polygon instance. I can use it for containment tests. I can use it for collision tests. I can use it to draw something on the canvas. So yeah, there's a whole API you can use with this stuff to do your own things on top of it.
Some of the geometry primitives as well.
Oh, yes.
Exposed.
Yeah, let me talk about that real quick. So there's a new module under submodule under foundry.helpers. Foundry.utils, sorry. That in the utils library, there's a number of sort of low-level geometry primitive computation methods that are used to power some of this stuff. So it's under common utils geometry. So there's a 2D orientation test function, line segment intersection testing, line intersection, line segment point-wise intersection, line circle intersection, determine the closest point to a segment, quadratic intersection. So there's a number of just sort of like intersection testing and sort of geometry primitives that are in this library that are more like standardized now that you can use in the API as well.
Yep.
Quick, Paula asks, do you guys get to play things outside of D&D 5e? This is actually surprising to a lot of people, but half of the staff do not play D&D 5e. Andrew and Matt and
Kim.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if Kim did it. They all play 5e at least in some capacity. I play 13th Age actively right now, although I have tried some other systems such as Dungeon World and now Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Nath actually develops his own system. We've talked about that a bit in the past and hammering it out. He has sworn off of D20 based systems, so his system is based on cards and having a hand of cards. And Roman plays Cyberpunk Red, among other things. So yeah, no, we do actually get a fairly good spread of playing various community systems and such. So yeah, no, Foundry is not a 5e only VTT. It's not focused on 5e. It is one of the many things we support. Is the only official system we support at this time, but don't, we have a lot of wonderful other systems.
To be clear, it's not an official system. It is.
Well, sorry.
It is a unofficial OGL system for 5e.
It is the only Foundry Foundry Gaming LLC system.
It's the only one that we maintain. Well, that and simple world building, but
yeah, that's true.
I also play Pathfinder 2 every week with T-Moon. Shout out T-Moon.
Has he killed you with a fountain yet? Because that's my experience with them.
He's come close to killing me with all sorts of shit. My character is pretty fragile, to be honest, and some of the enemies in this adventure that we're playing are just like unbelievably nasty. So, yeah, it's like white knuckling through most of it, but yeah.
And I just learned about the Expanse RPG in this stream, which I want to play.
Nice.
Because I really like the Expanse.
Yeah, there's nearly 170 systems available for Foundry right now, so if you can't find one you want to play out of that, give it another few weeks, and I'm sure you will.
All right, I think it's my turn. My turn for a question, I think.
You skipped Kim.
Oh, no. Yes. All right. That gives me time.
If only we had like a system to keep track of whose turn it was in rounds, and we could detach it from scenes.
Oh, I should use the combat tracker. I see what you're getting at there.
There was two that, again, is lighting. I'll try to... There was any plans for non-point sourced based lighting, so I think like non-circular radius ones. And there was one for multiple vision origin points. So I think you probably covered that earlier when you talked about how you could construct a polygon at any point you want. So if you want to do that, if you need to use vision to work out vision from some other point, or draw some rays from that point and use the collision detection, you totally can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the second one, I would say I'm not sure as a core feature. I mean, the assumption that a token has one singular vision source point is limiting in some ways, but alternatives to, for example, like test from the middle as well as all four corners, it's a 5x degradation of performance to do that, and so I'm not sure that that's something that we want to necessarily do in core versus allowing it to be an opt-in module. But it is a significant thing to test 5 times instead of once. So I think that's even with the new performance improvements, that's not necessarily trivial.
And not all systems would even need it. So it seems like overkill for core.
For non-radial sources, that is something that is planned. I don't have it's not planned with a date. It's planned as a sort of aspiration at some point. But we do want to support, say this is a roadway and you want to have a light or a sound even. Maybe you want the sound of like a wagon kind of going down the road. We'd like to have a way where you can, say like, draw a polygon for the area that you want to be the effect, and everything inside this polygon that you draw. I mean, I'm not sure it would be using the drawing tools necessarily, but the UX would be fairly similar, where you would sort of manually create a polygon like this, and then your manually created polygon here is the one that would be used for determining like which region is illuminated or in which region can you hear the sound effect. So, that's kind of what the goal would be for that. We don't have it scoped in terms of like promising when it's going to happen, but yeah, that's something that's on the roadmap for sure.
All right, I trust your turn.
It is my turn now. Cool.
Yeah.
Keep the questions coming, folks. Thank you for all the good questions. Anything that you want to know, let us know what we can answer for you. Let's see here. Sorry, I should have been prepared, but I don't actually see a new question coming in just now.
I will pull one from the log then.
Okay, cool.
People are asking if we have thoughts on expanding Fog of War such that it might work with multiple levels or floors, such as, the levels module. I'm gonna guess no, but
Well, so one thing that we do have as a definite goal, longer term, is to provide core support for multi-level scenes. So I don't think we would go to the effort of making the core Fog of War system work with a module necessarily, but I do think that as we explore into the possibility of a core feature for scene levels, once we have scene levels as an official thing that we support, there would need to be some way to have your exploration of the second floor not be spoiled by the fact that you were already in that same position on the first floor. So that is something that would need to be a required component of that solution, is to have multiple fog layers as associated with the levels of the scene. So sort of, I guess the answer is sort of yes, in that feature is on our mind, but it's not on our mind in the sense of we should add that feature to help a module work better at this point. I think it's on our mind in terms of we feel like that would be a core feature that would stand on its own in the future.
I had one. Gil Dashard asks, are there thoughts on creating a robust looking for games function website similar to your competitors? I certainly don't think that we're looking to crack into the looking for group space in such a way that we would be considered to be competitors, but Anathema has been hard at work at overhauling our current system and to better differentiate, paid games and free games. And I'm a player looking for a GM. I believe that's going to be rolling out fairly soon.
I'll also give a little shout out to a pretty good website. There's several websites and they all have relative merits, but one that I think does a good job at this is called startplaying.games. Start Playing Games. Start Playing Games has a game finder, and when you're looking for games on it, you can, under the more filters, you can filter specifically for Foundry VTT. And there are a lot of paid games here. I think, that's one of the things that it sort of exists for, in theory, but I think you can filter only for free games also. And there are free games that exist on this, and any platform like this, the more people that use the platform, the more options there will be. So I think this is a pretty good website, and I don't anticipate us building anything like this first party, at least not in the foreseeable future. So I'd suggest checking out this tool if you're looking for another place to find Foundry games.
You can also check out Foundry Hub, which is one of our sister communities. They have a looking for group forum. Yeah.
Yep. Forums.
Oh, it's my turn again, is it? No.
Answer.
Okay.
Mine.
We got two questions.
Question. I saw in the lighting demo how you could limit the site radius of a token. Is this something that can be turned into a feature where we can arbitrarily limit the site radius? So this, I thought you could already do. The tokens have a light that they emit, but they also have a vision radius that you can set to 0 while still giving them sight. And I think what's supposed to happen is that they can see just their token image. There's some special code around just that token image, so they can select it, even if everything around them is black.
Yeah,
even
so if this token that I'm showing here has vision, but they have 0 vision distance, they kind of can...
Yeah.
They're sort of like stumbling around blind in this scene where like they can't really see where they're going, but like you can at least see where your token is. So we give like a sort of bare minimum amount of distance that you can see through. But it's maybe not a perfect solution, but the question is like, what should we show in the case that the token doesn't actually have any vision? Should we show them anything at all? Or, I think this is probably about the best solution, but if you have other ideas, feel free to share that feedback.
I think, so Muman is saying with a vision radius, they can still see lights. That's probably right. I guess
that sounds like the right thing to do.
That's correct.
But is if you're looking for, so like here, for example, this token has no vision radius, but they can see into this area because this area is illuminated by these braziers.
Yeah.
If you wanted them not to be able to see anything at all you have to do is just take away their has vision checkbox. As a GM, you're seeing everything, but as a player, you're just going to get a black screen.
Will they just see their token to still select it, or no?
No.
Yeah, I think that might be the ask.
Yeah, I think if the idea is that if like your character is like blinded, then what you would do is you would take away their vision. You'd take away has vision. That's kind of the current way to handle that.
Yeah, I think there's just the idea of being able to still select your token even if you're blind.
I see.
But I think you can tab. Gets your token that way.
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. What you do with it, I'm not sure. All right, let me grab a question for us. Sorry, that was maybe not the most satisfying answer, but question from Rin Vindor with the new changes in lighting. Will there be a method to mass select sources to edit them in a group? I'd like to have that, but there isn't yet. So there's two key types of objects that can exist in a scene in Foundry at the moment. There's one that is more of a classic object that has a sort of a hitbox and an object frame. So that's like tokens. It's like drawings where the drawing has a frame. It's tiles that you place. And so those types of objects, you can select multiple objects at a time. It actually also applies to walls, although the way that walls are visualized does look a little bit different. But yeah, let's see here. So if I select multiple tokens, then I can have a sort of multi-editing experience. The difference is with light sources, we don't have a selector for it, and there's no concept of a light being actually controlled. So currently, like, this is the other type of object that exists in a scene. It's more of a point source object. This is like a light. It's a sound. It's a journal note that's a pin. These or a measured template. These types of objects, there's no sort of select for it. It's hovered or not hovered. And so we don't have a workflow built in for those types of objects to like select multiple of them at a time. Now, that could certainly be added. It would be a nice thing to add at some point, because it would be nice to be able to say, like, I want to change all 4 of these lights to all have the same color, all have the same animation, stuff like that. That would be a nice thing to add at some point. But it's not something that's necessarily in yet or on our immediate roadmap, but that is a nice idea.
I think we're winding down on questions. I think we should give maybe another pass or two and then wrap up the stream.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. So last chance. Ask your questions if you have them. Otherwise, when's the next time we're going to do a stream, Atro? Are we going to do a testing stream? Or are we going to wait till stable?
I think we're not going to do a testing stream. We're going to wait till stable. But as I mentioned, I think we're going to do a 5e themed stream sometime between now and stable.
Okay. People are asking about the schedule for V9. So we are currently in the development phase of V9. This is the release should hopefully go out tomorrow. And then developers and very enterprising users can go test it out and give us final feedback. After that, we enter the testing phase where users are recommended to go try some one-shots and some blank worlds and test it out and give us some feedback. And then we should hit stable, hopefully, end of 2021, early 2022. Oh, here's a fun question. I'm not even going to try
End of
this.
2022.
Start of 2020. I'd really like to give us a wide. Under promise,
That's
over
very conservative. Very conservative.
Here's a fun question from someone whose name is Cornstop Fan. When are we going to have a referral system? They want to be a Foundry salesman. They've convinced, without exaggeration, 9 people to test and buy it.
Yeah, it's a
Good
nice
work.
Thank you so much for that, by the way. It's a nice idea to have some support for referrals. It's sort of, I don't know. I would love to do that. I would love to have a way to. I think it probably wouldn't be anything like a, cash reward or anything. But I think what I'd like to do at some point is if I could tally up, referrals and sort of like for every 9 people that buy Foundry at your referral, you get like a license automatically added to your account that you can like give away to a 10th person. I'd like to do something like that. It is an idea I'm fond of. As far as when, I'm not sure. I think it's a nice thing to do. I'm not sure when it might happen, but yeah, I think the idea of like giving you an extra license once enough people have bought Foundry at your referral, and then you can give that license to someone else, or whatever you want to do with it. I think that's a nice way to handle it.
Really, tracking referrals can be hard because, like, if someone clicks your link and then they revisit from a different device later, like, that's usually not tracked. And it can be hard if someone doesn't do it right at that click time. You're good. Secret Fire, thank you for all the gifts.
Oh wow, Secret Fire, so generous. Thanks, man. That's really.
So right now,
really kind of
I'll
you.
give you a recommendation for getting those 9 people to try out Foundry. And the strength of the community growing is a reward in and of itself.
Yeah.
There was one about if we had this one comes up lots of streams, and maybe it's the same person who asks it every time. Given unlimited resources and time, what one feature would each of you add to Foundry that it doesn't already have?
Love it. I'm not going first.
For me, I pick mobile support. I think something that I would, and not necessarily like tablet support, like touch. I'm talking about loading into the app and getting a special UI that just works on your phone, like so you can view a character sheet and do lots of things there. That's something I would be excited to do.
Core multi-window support, so I can, natively just like have my character sheet open in a second window. I feel like Kim and I are like right on the same page, just in different device requirements.
You're both thinking about like very sort of like technical expansions of like what Foundry can support. Yeah. I don't know. I want pretty features. I think I'm more. I just want toys, I guess. I would probably say. For me, it would be a close thing between event triggers or scene levels, I think. Those are both ideas that I'm pretty excited about. That, I'd be really happy with either of those. I think those would give me a lot of fun toys to use to build bigger and better and cooler maps and stuff like that. I think those are some of my favorites.
I guess a non-technical answer would be ambient sounds attached to tokens. So as the big monster gets closer, you hear it. I would think that was a cool feature. I'd use it like twice, and then I would like run out of setups that was actually full.
We've got a boss in Demon Queen Awakens that would work great for that. We currently have like it as an ambient sound of like the footsteps kind of chasing you down. I don't want to give spoilers, but that would work really well if it were like the sound sort of moved and it was like attached to the token.
I overused ambient sounds for rivers when I first got Foundry, and then It's like, well, that's what I have. I have the sound of river rushing or lava bubbling. That's what I've got for access to.
Yeah.
Fire crackling.
Well, you just need to build a bigger ambient sound effects library then, Cody. If those are the only options that you have available, you just need more assets, is I think the clear answer.
This is me talking to you, the community. If someone wants to open a Patreon specializing in ambient sound effects, I'm subbing at your highest tier.
Allow me to refer you to Michael Gelfi. And
I thought he did... See, the problem is when I look for ambient sound effects, I always get like, this is the background of a dungeon. And it's not like localized sources like, fire cracking individually.
Michael's expanded into doing, in addition to ambient, like pre-composed sounds, he also publishes like individual sound effects with his stuff now. So
well, I'm there. I'm going to Michael Gelfi. I'm subbing at the highest tier.
I'm sure there's other amazing creators that are doing this as well. So I don't want to discount what others have done. There are also some like free sound libraries that are available as modules. I think there's a sound effects module. There's like that game dev bundle module. It's really huge, so it's a big download. I also am a fan of like, you can get a bunch of like great sort of Foley sound effects on like Open Sound and other websites that are really cool too, that are easy to use. Tabletop Audio, yeah, that's a great example. Tabletop Audio has a ton of like one-off soundboard style effects.
Oh, my Patreon bill just got higher this month.
Did someone ask about font scaling? Because that is actually in this release as well.
Oh yeah, that's true.
This one.
That was in the previous. That wasn't in this release. That was in a previous release.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we do have font size, which is a slider that you can use to adjust. It's a little bit. I don't think we can really fix this. It's a little bit annoying to adjust the slider because every time I notch the slider, the UI changes like underneath it. but
I had to specifically add code to make it update the setting page, so I could change that to not do that.
Yeah, but yeah, you can adjust the font size of the UI. There's a slider now, which is it's pretty good. It's not just pretty good; it's excellent.
I've just been informed Michael Gelfi's top Patreon tier is $100 a month. I have.
You committed live on stream, Cody. We all have your verbal commitment.
Gelfi, I better get this eternal gratitude. Damn it.
All right, what else we got? Can the speed of token movement be made adjustable? That's a good... We should do that. We should make that a configuration, like a canvas config that configures like the base token movement speed. I think that would be a good thing to expose as something that can be tweaked. Oh my gosh, something happened. Too long a stream. Needs F5. Too long stream. Please help. Question from TJ Lanza. What's the chance of getting ability to type numbers directly into those slider bound fields? Well, I think it's pretty good. One thing that we've been doing is we've been converting more of our standard form inputs to like handlebars helpers. So like we use like a handlebars helper for like the range input. We use a handlebars helper for like the number input, and that helps us to quickly build complex forms like this one where each field set is just like a kind of pre-existing helper. And so like getting the box to the right that previews the value of the slider, like that just comes for free whenever you use the range input helper and stuff. And so we could make it, having it being able to enter a numeric value would be probably nice to have there. We would have to make sure that it conforms to the allowed step size and of the range input itself, because sometimes those are sort of intentionally set, but it's a nice idea.
People have asked if, like icons, if we might license or find some free ambient sound effects and add it to the base thing. I think that's a good idea now that I've just spent $100 on a Patreon.
Did you really?
I said I would.
Oh my gosh,
my
Cody.
God.
Oh wow. Amazing.
I will.
Amazing.
I'm only going to do that for 1 month,
amazing.
or else I will hear about it forever.
Yeah, you're gonna be hearing about it. Yeah, your gratitude's not gonna be the only thing that you have eternally. Yeah, so I like the idea. I think one thing I want to avoid is maybe having the Foundry install or updates be like too big, and audio can really start to sort of bulk up the file size. But yeah, I really love the idea of having a core sound effects portfolio that can be drawn from. I think that would be really valuable to all kinds of Foundry users, and it would also allow things like module or adventure developers to include common sounds like campfires or waterfalls or rivers or tavern chatter. It allowed them to include those sort of standard sound effects in their scenes and in their modules without needing to always like individually rebundle them, because you'd be able to assume that they exist in the core. So I think it's a really nice idea.
Maybe Gelfie will help me out. Send RSR away. If I screen share, will that work, or is that gonna mess up the?
Don't do that. Don't do that.
There was one that I just quickly wanted to address. It was way back when we were talking about the encounter pinning. Someone mentioned that using a color to indicate whether a scene is pinned or not is not very helpful for colorblind users, which is totally fair. I think I was just limited with the font awesome range there, but we can change the icon as well when that's pinned or not. I'll think of something. Make sure that's raised, but that's a fair point. If you have other like accessibility,
yeah, we can make some other visible differentiation of the pin, whether it's active or not. I think is a nice idea.
Yeah, and if you have other, just use the GitLab to erase these accessibility issues. Prioritize them as we can.
All right, I think we are about at our time. Let's take one or two more closing questions. But you guys have been amazing hanging out with us this long, asking questions, showing support. Really appreciate your engagement and following along with what we're doing, and we're really excited with V9 to get this to more and more people as it approaches stable. It's really good, and we can't wait to get you all using it as well.
Very good. Yeah.
I think this is a great last one to end on. Another fun one. Pickers 101 asks, you can have a free integration with one piece of software or other platform overnight. What do you choose?
Oh,
I'm so glad they're offering. This is the kind of software we received on stream.
Man.
Let's not, thank you, Picker, for offering to do that for us. I would love if I had as an option a way to load a Tailspire map and have the clicks pass through to Tailspire so I can interact with it, but still have Foundry's character sheets overhead. So I can use Tailspire once in game and move on with my life.
Yeah, just have all of Foundry's APIs and stuff around it, which are very good, powerful. The macros, that'd be pretty good.
that would be cool.
Cool for sure. Even if I prefer top-down 2D anyway.
I'm really struggling to. I'm struggling with this one because there's so many tempting answers.
I would pick Discord integration with the videos or video chat, so I don't have to code that.
I think Discord would be a very tempting choice for me, both for AV, but also like it'd be cool to have like some integration between Discord chat and Foundry chat, or like, you know, being able to sort of have your game campaign sort of interface with a Discord channel, to where like throughout the week, if you're like chatting in Discord, you could, you know, sort of roll dice or like post like in-character chat messages or things like that.
And run it through Foundry's API.
And run it through Foundry's API. That would be really cool.
Do my modules mean nothing to you guys?
Well, we're talking about...
That's not exactly what it does, though.
No.
Built in, right?
There is no video available through Discord. They don't make that available as an API, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other cool features about Discord, like running audio through it or running, you know, like Discord rich presence, requires the user to have a installed something on their machine.
This would never happen, but I think one that if I could just have it, I would probably say Spotify. Like, for all reasons it won't work. Like, their, you know, terms don't allow it. It would never happen. But like, I think it'd be really nice for the GM to be able to, you know, use a bunch of Spotify playlists and have those like work with Foundry. But yeah, I don't know.
Cool. Yeah.
Those are good. Those are good questions. You're just making me wistful.
Fun.
You're just making me wistful about like all the things we can't and don't have. But yeah,
I do one day plan to actually go through with my plan to build ambient smells, and I've been suggested some options like No. The current plan is to burn incense candles and then have fans blow it out into the room. But the problem is, like, if it's actively burning, like, it's just going to wait into the room anyway. So I still have some logistical non-Foundry troubles of how do I produce fragrance in a room that's discernible but not avail all the time.
Nobody asked for this, Cody.
Nobody did. You don't build it because it needs to exist. You build it because you want it to exist.
Nobody wants it either. All right.
Yeah. Okay. No, let's move on.
Yeah. I mean, bear in mind that we're using this software to play games where you encounter truly terrible things in dire environments. I think recreating the smelloscape is probably not what is
It's exactly the kind of integration we need for our merch store.
Immersion, yeah, absolute immersion.
I've run so many sewer encounters. Just not a good idea.
All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with us. It's been fun. We look forward to getting this release out to you tomorrow. This V9 Dev 2 release will be available tomorrow morning, bright and early. And then from there, we're just going to be testing it, working on your feedback, iterating, polishing, fixing bugs, polishing up the features. The V9 stable release will be coming as soon as it's ready, which we hope will be around the end of the year. So we are getting close now. So this is a really great time to give us your feedback, help us get to that stable milestone. Thank you all so much for the support and for hanging out. And we hope to see you next time when we are live on Twitch, and join us in Discord for even more opportunity to engage with us. So thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your evening. Cheers. Happy gaming. Take care.
Yeah. Thanks all. Take care.